I ain't gonna kill you. We was homeboys once, pig. Once we homeboys, we always homeboys. Even if you is a fat phony.
Please don't take me out the gal.
I ain't gonna kill you. We was homeboys once, pig. Once we homeboys, we always homeboys. Even if you is a fat phony.
Please don't take me out the gal.
I ain't gonna kill you. Is a fat phony. We was homeboys once, pig. Once we homeboys, we always homeboys. Even if you is a fat phony.
Please don't take me out the gal.
I ain't gonna kill you. We was homeboys once, pig. Once we homeboys, we always homeboys. Even if you is a fat phony.
Please don't take me out the gal.
I ain't gonna kill you. We was homeboys once, pig. Once we homeboys, we always homeboys. Even if you is a fat phony.
Please don't take me out the gal.
I ain't gonna kill you. We was homeboys once, pig. Once we homeboys, we always homeboys. Even if you is a fat phony.
Please don't take me out the gal.
I ain't gonna kill you. We was homeboys once, pig. Once we homeboys, we always homeboys. Even if you is a fat phony.
Please don't take me out the gal.
I ain't gonna kill you. We was homeboys once, pig. Once we homeboys, we always homeboys. Even if you is a fat phony.
Please don't take me out the gal.
I ain't gonna kill you, fat phony. We was homeboys once, pig. Once we homeboys, we always homeboys. Even if you is a fat phony.
Please don't take me out the gal.
I ain't gonna kill you. We was homeboys once, pig. Once we homeboys, we always homeboys. Even if you is a fat phony.
Please don't take me out the gal.
I ain't gonna kill you. We was homeboys once, pig. Once we homeboys, we always homeboys. Even if you is a fat phony.
Please don't take me out the gal.
I ain't gonna kill you. We was homeboys once, pig. Once we homeboys, we always homeboys. Even if you is a fat phony.
Please don't take me out the gal.
I ain't gonna kill you. We was homeboys once, pig. Once we homeboys, we always homeboys.
Alright, we locked in, twin. Hold on, I'll make sure I do a mic check. Locked in, twin. Let me share my mic, alright. Sound like my shit behind. Alright, we straight. We straight. Alright, bet we straight. Check what the fuck going on. We back, baby.
What?
But yesterday we touched on we finished up the Tupac and Biggie. So now we on a Dr.DRE. Snoop Dogg and Dr.DRE. What happened at Death Row? Why he left Death Row? Things of that nature. Why they were beefing. So we gonna find that out. Y'all go ahead and get these motherfuckers started. I'm gonna make this bigger. First off, we gotta get a shout out to Hip Hop Universe for the information, man. I've been getting information, man. I appreciate him a lot. All the hard work he doing for the hip hop community, find out the truth. Some of y'all take it true or false. It's up to you. Let me know, chat, what y'all think doing this stream. Cause you know what I'm saying, I wasn't born during this time, so I don't really know what's going on.
But I was like, no matter how dope he is, if you're not down for his homeboy, no matter how dope he is, and Dre's one of my heroes in the music business, but I was like, no matter how dope he is, if you're not down for his homeboy, I don't want to be a part of him. I don't want to be around him or nothing.
As far as Dr. Dre goes, been there, done that, through with it.
Oh, we gonna start back. Hold on. I don't feel like it's loud enough. There we go. It shit sound like it was low. Hold on, twin. I couldn't hear nothing.
No matter how dope he is, and Dre's one of my heroes in the music business, but I was like, no matter how dope he is, if you're not down for his homeboy, then I don't want to be a part of him. I don't want to be around him or nothing.
As far as Dr. Dre goes, been there, done that, through with it.
Watch them go, watch them rise, witness it, watch them blow.
You know, you can find somebody that can really rhyme, get in the studio and get down, and also be a good
I heard y'all didn't want to get in the studio with each other. What's going on with this?
The strangest things can happen for rapping when get wrapped up in image and acting.
Pac like that.
Oh, he did. That's a diss right
on
there.
beach. I'm like red rag. So, bam, they put a red rag on Pac.
You can try to play that gangster this shit, but we MOB for I'm real.
Pac was blood.
Capped up and wrapped in plastic, zipped up in bags when it happens, that's it.
At Stream Elements.
What he was saying about
Said.
me is all hype because he knows absolutely nothing about
Stream
me except what he
Elements
hears
bot
and reads.
running robot face. Learned how to customize the bot here. https://docs.streamelements.com.
Ain't gonna fuck me up with that. What the fuck stream him come from? Oh, we got one back chat.
Tupac versus Dr. Dre. A beef that took place in the mid-90s and can be best described as an idols become rivals type of relationship, merged with betrayal / two groups going their separate ways after working together. They met in 1990, when Pac was on tour with Digital Underground and Dre was a part of NWA. Pac kept asking him for beats, telling him that he wants to go solo. But Dre didn't really take him seriously, as he was a nobody at this point, and as Dre kept his beats for himself and his crew. Almost every track Dre produced became a banger, so he had no reason to give away his beats. Dre never reached out to him as he wasn't really interested in working with him. Pac was a huge fan of him, but the two never really developed a real friendship. They would see each other every now and then, but didn't collaborate until years later. In early '92, Dre left Ruthless Records and his group NWA to create his own label with a man named Suge Knight. Pac had already dropped his debut album Tupacalypse Now and played in the movie Juice a year prior. His good friend Tretch from Naughty by Nature was in it as well. He was very close with ex-NWA member Eazy-E, who became Dr. Dre's biggest rival after he went to Death Row. Pac had already known him since 1990. He idolized him even more than Dr. Dre. Tretch would later ghostwrite for Eazy-E, and the three started hanging out together.
Another one.
We don't know that true or false. He ghostwrite for Eazy. Hold on, we gotta get that man his flowers, man. Did he do the diss on the Dr. Dre? That's what I wanna know.
Pac also got close with the group Above the Law, which was signed to Eazy-E's label Ruthless Records. Pac wanted Eazy-E to sign him as well. He was having difficulties with his second album at the time. It was supposed to be called Black Starry Night at first. He even recorded an intro with that same title, in which he's shouting out above the law.
You got to deal with me on the
This intro was scrapped, became an interlude, and just like all the other songs he had recorded at that time, it was released posthumously in 1997 on the album Are You Still Down, Remember Me. While working on Black Starry Night in 1992, the people from Interscope Records told him to change it. Then, as the recording process went on over the next few months, Pac decided to change the name to Troublesome 21. He was adding and removing songs every time he went to the studio. The tracklist of the final version of the Troublesome 21 album was entirely different from the actual sophomore album that came out, because Troublesome 21 was scrapped by Time Warner due to the outcry in the media over the lyrical content. Pac was really having difficulties with his career at the time. The censorship was one of the reasons why he tried to find a new label. He had a problem with Interscope telling him what to say and what not to say in his lyrics. He thought there was no censorship on labels like Ruthless Records and Death Row. That's why he tried to reach out to them, especially to Eazy-E's label Ruthless Records. He thought that was the best option at the time, cause he was already cool with Above the Law and Eazy-E, who again were the enemies of Dre and Death Row Records. Pac more or less tried to prove Eazy-E his loyalty and convince him that he'll be a great addition to the label. He did a song with Above the Law called Call It What You Want. They also did a music video together in which Eazy-E was featured. That wasn't the first time Eazy appeared in a music video with Tupac.
At Nathan Byrne W6Q8Z.
In 1990, Dre and E made a cameo appearance in the music video for the song
from Ireland,
Same Song.
Ireland.
What's up, Ireland?
At Born Tolos Built to Last Rig 4546. Said. Hello, chat.
What's up, Born? Come through.
That was the first single Tupac was on. Between 1992 and 1993, Tupac and Above the Law performed the song Call It What You Want on different shows in LA. Pac got to hang out with the entire Ruthless crew, including
At
Eazy-E. They would always talk bad about Dr. Dre and Death Row Records. Eazy-E was trying to motivate Tupac to go at Dr. Dre and his crew. Pac was a hothead and extremely loyal. He would always treat the rivals of his friends as his own enemies. In December '92, Dr. Dre dissed Eazy-E and the label Ruthless Records on the song Dre Day off the album The Chronic. Eazy-E asked Pac if he would diss Dre for him in exchange for him getting signed to Ruthless Records. And Pac said yes, he was ready. He was already in F Dre mode. And he was looking for people to get back at Dre and to counter the diss track Dre Day. One day when Tupac, Eazy-E, Above the Law and Money B from Digital Underground were at a show in LA and were getting ready to perform on stage, somebody told them that the people from Death Row were in the same building. There was a little tension in the air and everybody thought that it would come to a fight, since the situation was so heated. Eazy-E was calm and relaxed and said,
"Oh shit,
if
no
something
way. Oh, come on, Easy. Goddamn, you had a fucking gun in that bitch. Shit. Hold on now. You two ain't got nothing to do with it. I just seen it, bro. Ain't got nothing to do with it.
happens, I got my thing."
I should have stopped that.
He pulled out his gun and was ready. Pac then pulled out a gun too.
Come on now, y'all got, oh lord. Damn, I gotta skip this shit.
Even the type to fight and argue with people. They exchanged words and everything was cool. Pac and Eazy-E had a falling out due to multiple reasons. The first being Pac deciding to record a song with Ice Cube called Last Words for his sophomore album, which finally got released on February 16th, 1993 under a new name, after scrapping multiple songs and replacing them with new ones. Ice Cube was still an enemy of Ruthless Records and Eazy-E. Not only did he destroy NWA with his diss track No Vaseline, but E's homies from Above the Law had a fist fight with Cube and his crew, the Lynch Mob, in 1991.
Damn.
Eazy-E was actually working on a diss EP aimed at Cube, similar to the one he made for Dre, which is called It's On Dr. Dre 187 Killer. It came out on October 19th, 1993, and Cube was supposed to get dissed on a separate EP. Cube later even agreed to do an entire album called Helter Skelter with Dr. Dre, dissing Eazy-E. So yeah, E was disappointed by Pac doing a song with him. And the second reason why E didn't really want to mess with Pac anymore was because he was starting to get too close with the people from Death Row. And again, Dre and Eazy were enemies. Everyone on both labels was in war mode. So why would he try to work with or get close to not just one, but two of his enemies in the middle of a rap beef? After telling him that he would diss them, Dre dissed E on one of the most iconic battle records ever, and Cube did the same on No Vaseline a year prior. And Pac was trying to get close with both of them, even though he was yelling F Dre when E and Pac were hanging out together. So E was obviously confused and disappointed. Pac just wanted to take his career to the next level. He felt like Interscope was holding him back, so he tried to reach out and get close to all the giants in the industry. He tried to take every opportunity that came his way to finally blow up. He didn't even think that Eazy-E would take offense to it. Pac got close with Death Row around the time he started working on his third album, which was in 1993. He first met Snoop Dogg on July 21st, 1993, at the premiere for the movie Poetic Justice, which he played in the year prior. Turns out that the people from Death Row already had him on their radar at the time. Pac then started to hang out with Snoop Dogg, and then got introduced to the label boss Suge Knight, who offered him a record deal. They wanted to make a deal with Interscope and get all the music they recorded for Pac's third album and put it out on the label Death Row. Like mentioned earlier, Interscope was already causing trouble and refusing to put out Pac's music the way he wanted it to be, mainly because of his lyrical content, which they thought was too violent and controversial, especially his songs about crooked cops. They tried to censor him. Pac always wanted to be on Ruthless, but they weren't really making much of an effort to get him on their label. Eazy-E at the time had linked up with the rappers BG Knockout and Gangsta Dresta, So he didn't need a guy like Pac anymore to go at Dre. Gangsta Dre and BG Knockout were taking care of that. So Ruthless Records wasn't really interested anymore.
Damn.
With Death Row, it was the other way around. They were the ones that reached out to Pac and offered him a record deal.
And I don't even picture myself to be like Dre or whatever.
Come on, Pop. Come on, goddamn now. Damn, I gotta skip that shit. I do not want to skip that shit. Hell nah. Why are you showing somebody gun? You gotta get me fucked up. Sorry, Chet. This shit got guns in it. I can't.
The reason why Pac decided not to sign to Death Row was because of the disagreements he had with Dr. Dre, Snoop Dogg and the Dogg Pound back in autumn '93. Pac had just finished recording his third album, which he called Thug Style, or Thug for Life. This was before he decided to put out a group project called Thug Life. A lot of the songs on the unreleased album Thug Style came out posthumously in 1997 on the album Are You Still Down, Remember Me, which is a double album containing some of the unreleased songs he originally intended for his second album, Black Starry Night, and also his third album, Thug Style. Two projects that got scrapped and replaced by other albums. The album Thug Style was originally scheduled for an early '94 release. He had songs on there like Thug Style, Thug for Life, Is It Cool to F, and Time to Get My Drink On. Pac had handed in the final version of the project to Interscope, so that they can make copies of it and sell it in early '94. Somebody from Interscope then, for whatever reason, gave copies of the Thug Style album to Dr. Dre, Suge, Snoop and the Dogg Pound. Like mentioned earlier, there were plans of them signing Tupac to their label, so that might have been one of the reasons why they got copies in advance, more than half a year before the official release.
Damn.
Because this incident happened late summer, early autumn '93. When they were still working on Snoop's debut album, which ended up being Doggy Style. Doggy Style and Thug Style. Now who copied whom? The singer Natasha Walker.
So they copied Tupac? Everybody want to copy Tupac, man. He the blueprint. I ain't gonna lie. Jay, we go ahead and go call a spade, man. These folk couldn't be like Pop.
Did the background vocals on Tupac's song Is It Cool to F, which again was on the Thug Style album. And she confirmed that Snoop and the people from Death Row were biting Tupac. Bruce was actually close with Michelle was on the East Coast. Prior to the meeting, the music brought a whole and got along with all. They then thought that he was too long, and that all the other producers are doing his job. That he's taking credit for what other people do, while Dre felt like everyone was like-minded troublemakers and hotheads. They wanted as the feature guest. This wasn't what him and Suge had agreed on. Dre wanted Tupac to be listed as a feature. Songs he had weren't strong enough to put out as singles. He was also told that Death Row will be focusing on Tupac first. Him to join the label. Later understood that money for just one song.
First of all, I like to thank,
which was released on March 22nd, 1994. 7 days prior to the release of the soundtrack.
Oh, here you go, I see it. Damn, we skipped a whole bunch.
Pac's song also features the rapper Richie Rich, who was actually the first person to use that sample, back when he dropped the song Snitches and B with his group 415.
Called a brother one day getting out of a cop car. I know there's more to come.
If it comes to a fight. The elevator doors open.
We gotta go all the way back, twin. Where the fuck we was at?
In which Eazy-E was featured. That wasn't the first time Eazy appeared in a music video with Tupac.
My bad.
In 1990, Dre and E made a cameo appearance in the music video for the song Same Song. That was the first single Tupac was on. Between 1992 and 1993, Tupac and Above the Law performed the song Call It What You Want on different shows in LA. Pac got to hang out with the entire Ruthless crew, including Eazy-E. They would always talk bad about Dr. Dre and Death Row Records. Eazy-E was trying to motivate Tupac to go at Dr. Dre and his crew. Pac was a hothead and extremely loyal. He would always treat the rivals of his friends as his own enemies. In December '92, Dr. Dre dissed Eazy-E and the label Ruthless Records on the song Dre Day off the album The Chronic. Eazy-E asked Pac if he would diss Dre for him in exchange for him getting signed to Ruthless Records. And Pac said yes. He was ready. He was already in F Dre mode. and he was looking for people to get back.
We right here, right?
Pac had just finished recording his third album, which he called Thug Style, or Thug for Life. This was before he decided to put out a group project called Thug Life. A lot of the songs on the unreleased album Thug Style came out posthumously in 1997 on the album Are You Still Down, Remember Me, which is a double album containing some of the unreleased songs he originally intended for his second album, Black Starry Nights, and also his third album, Thug Style. Two projects that got scrapped and replaced by other albums. The album Thug Style was originally scheduled for an early '94 release. He had songs on there like Thug Style, Thug for Life, Is It Cool to F, and Time to Get My Drink On. Pac had handed in the final version of the project to Interscope, so that they can make copies of it and sell it in early '94. Somebody from Interscope then, for whatever reason, gave copies of the Thug Style album to Dr.DRE, Shook, Snoop, and the Dogg Pound. Like mentioned earlier, there were plans of them signing Tupac to their label, so that might have been one of the reasons why they got copies in advance, more than half a year before the official release. Because this incident happened late summer, early autumn '93, when they were still working on Snoop's debut album, which ended up being Doggy Style. Doggy Style and Thug Style. Now who copied whom? The singer Natasha Walker did the background vocals on Tupac's song Is It Cool to F, which again was on the Thug Style album. And she confirmed that Snoop and the people from Death Row were biting Tupac. She walked in on Corrupt and Daz Dillinger of the group The Dogg Pound, which was signed to Death Row at the time, while they were listening to Tupac's upcoming album Thug Style. They had a copy of that album and were studying it, without Pac knowing about it. Listening to it during the recording sessions of Snoop Dogg's Doggy Style album, with Dre in the studio stealing ideas, cause he was the one producing the album. The singer Natasha Walker was confused, because Tupac didn't allow her to get a copy of the album yet. He feared that it would leak and be all over the place. So that's why he didn't want anyone who was on the album to have copies of it. But Interscope, for whatever reason, gave several artists on Death Row copies of the album. And according to Natasha Walker and the rapper Swoop G, they studied that album and used some of the rhymes, beats, slangs, and ideas on Doggy Style, which came out later that year on November 23rd, before the planned release date of the album Thug Style, meaning Snoop Dogg would come out with Pac's ideas before him, making it seem like Pac is the one who drew inspiration from Snoop, even though it was the other way around. And nobody wanted to be labeled a biter back then, especially when you're the one who came up with all the ideas, and people try to use them before you. Pac had a line on MC Breed's song Gotta Get Mine, in which he said, I keep my mind on my money, money on my mind, which Snoop then copied on his hit single Gin and Juice off the upcoming album Doggy Style.
I keep my mind on my money, money on my mind.
Laid back.
With my mind on my money and my money.
Ooh, we found out the phonies today. What's up? That Snoop Dogg been the phone this whole time, twin. Y'all bite my boy. No ever say he goddamn. That boy the greatest, man. Tupac the greatest, bro. You folk couldn't fuck with Tupac.
I gotta get mine. You gotta get yours. I gotta get mine. You gotta get yours.
You gotta get yours, but fool, I gotta get mine.
They about to pee me off already. And it's only 1 o'clock. They about to pee me off already, bro. So this nigga, he ain't never had his original sound. He bit off Tupac the whole time, bro. Why did Tupac get what Death Row did? If he knew they were doing that, this shit crazy. This shit beyond me, Jack.
Gin and Juice is widely regarded as Snoop Dogg's best song.
H4H.
The album Doggy Style went to sell over 806,000 units in the first week alone.
What you mean, bro?
While Pac, with his second album that came out in the same year...
Hold on. Y'all knew this? Hold on, tell me, chat. Y'all knew this? Did y'all know that? Is it true or false? I need to know. So Snoop Dogg he bit Tupac shit on his first album. That's crazy, twin. No wonder we don't hear nothing from Tupac, Snoop Dogg no more.
Sold 38,000 units. Snoop sold over 25 times more records than him, while he's quote-unquote biting him. So of course Tupac was mad about it.
I know.
They even stole the beat for G's and Hustlers off Snoop's album from Pac's song Lie to Kick It. which was produced by Warren G and recorded for the Thug Style album.
This is for the G's and this is for the hustlers. This is for the hustlers, now back to the G's.
Pac's song also features the rapper Richie Rich, who was actually the first person to use that sample back when he dropped the song Snitches and B with his group 415.
At Joanna Warren 530 said,
Both Warren
Pac is
G
a
and
legend. I am
Dr.
49
Dre
and still have Pac as my #1 playlist, and yes, everyone wanted to be Pac.
I do too, baby. I do too.
At Brandon Moody H4H said, yeah, shoddy nigga been biting Pac. Really was pissed when Bra came to death row. Dem dog pound niggas.
So he been hating the whole time, twin. Like, that shit is, the whole time he been acting crazy and strange to Pop. He ain't really want to go into Biggie shit. He was biting off that boy. He was hating on that boy. Cause you know he come to death row, he gonna
At
take
Joanna
over.
Warren 530 said, shoot, I wanted to be his wife rolling on the floor laughing.
Should we get up? hey, a player's a player. We go there.
We made the beat that Richie Rich had in 1990.
At Chris Allen Y3S
DJ Daryl, who was the producer of the group, was the first person to flip that sample.
Damn. You never knew this?
Tupac and
You say you never knew this, Chris? I never knew this too. You know, they ain't had the lyrics back in the day like that. Like we can put up lyrics like we can now. They ain't had that back
Joanna
in the day.
Warren 530
That's crazy, twin.
said,
we gonna keep this between this top secret around here.
Warren G wanted to do a tribute for them. That's why Warren G remade the beats so that Richie Rich can once again rap on the same beat, but this
at
time with
Markle
Tupac.
Johnson
The
8449
group 415 had a huge
said,
impact on rappers from the Bay Area.
Pac really been him
Between
gang.
the late 80s and early 90s, Tupac lived in Oakland. So he
At
was
Brandon
a huge fan of
Moody
them,
H4H
just like Warren G. But
said,
Richie Rich was also his homie.
facts, he really couldn't
There's
stand
footage of
Tupac
them
because
together
he
in
knew
the
Bra
studio.
naturally outshined him.
This was before Dr. Dre
At Chris
copied
Allen
that beat.
Y3S said, for show.
Due to Snoop, the Dog Pound, and Dr. Dre having a copy of Pac's album before its official release, they were able to listen to it and steal ideas from it. Dr. Dre stole his stepbrother Warren G's beats by flipping the sample the same way he did, but without telling them anything about it. Pac at this point was still trying to work out a deal with Death Row, but all eyes were on Snoop. He was the main priority on the label. So in 1993, they soaked up everything Pac had to offer at that time and gave it to Snoop, which of course infuriated him and made Pac not want to join Death Row. Pac felt like everybody was stealing his ideas. Not only
Did
Dre
you really
and the
open and close your behind repeatedly on camera?
Close my mind.
people from Death Row, but also the people on Bad Boy. Puffy somehow got his hands on the album as well. And they heard Tupac's Time to Get My Drink On, which they used for Biggie's Ready to Die album.
Oh, we know that shit. Damn.
It came out a year later on September 13th, 1994. Chucky Thompson and Puff Daddy used the same sample from the Isley Brothers for Biggie's hit record Big Papa, during a time when Pac was having difficulties with Death Row. I will cover Tupac's beef with Biggie in the next video, so stay tuned.
So y'all know.
Pac didn't want to sound like Snoop or Biggie, so he decided to scrap the whole album and start from scratch. Most of the songs on there didn't get released until after his death. For him, it felt like Death Row was trying to exploit and bully him, cause every time he had an idea, the people from Death Row were looking at him like a pack of hungry wolves that are ready to bite and rip off everything they can without Pac being able to do anything about it. So he felt betrayed and was fuming when Natasha Walker told him about it. He couldn't believe it.
Said,
Snoop and the people from Death Row didn't necessarily have bad intentions.
And
they
Pac
just
didn't
loved
have a lot
Pac's
of choice
music
when
and
it
his
came to
style
joining
overall.
Death Row.
But Snoop,
It was
just
his
like
only way out
Biggie
of
and
jail.
everyone else, wanted to put
At
out the
Brandon
best
Moody
music
H4H
possible and make sure that he'll
said,
blow up. Instead of
And Puffy
dropping
was
a
obsessed with
half-assed
Demand,
album that
Danica
people
even
quickly
doubled
forget
back on,
about
like, Six
due
Goes
to strong
Tupac had hit.
competition on the East Coast, the people from Death Row wanted to put everything the West Coast had to offer at that time into one album.
I know that motherfucker was stressed.
By spying on other West Coast artists to improve their music.
They don't want to put them out like that.
They wanted the West Coast to take over and leave the East Coast behind, even though New York is the mecca of hip-hop. The objective was to leave a mark on the world and to shake up the game with every album, so that everybody remembers the names Dr.DRE, Snoop Doggy Dogg, and the Dogg Pound. They wanted to replace their rivals, Ruthless Records, as the face of hip-hop. And to that, they needed to drop more classic albums like The Chronic.
What video is this?
They wanted to prove
At Jihad Jilo, my 6NS.
It's from hip hop.
Said.
Can you see it? It's from hip hop.
Tupac, One World Music.
Hip Hop Universe. Tupac versus Dr.DRE. Beef documentary. He got Tupac and Biggie too. So if y'all want to check that out, go check my Hip Hop Universe. We appreciate him dropping the information because I ain't never know that. You know what I'm saying?
to Eazy-E that they're better off without him by selling more on Death Row than on Ruthless Records. So that's why they were spying on Pac, who was just about to blow up, to use some of his momentum for themselves so that they're the biggest thing in hip-hop. Pac scrapped the entire Thug Style album and decided to work on the Thug Life Group album instead. But he didn't want to release it on Death Row, as he felt like they were just trying to waste his time by making empty promises and screwing him over.
No problem.
Not because they wanted to harm him, but they were only thinking about themselves. They were actually trying to be cool with Pac the whole time. Wanted to get even by
Pac
featuring
was a very
him on
smart
soundtracks
man. I was just a teen
and
back
helping
then.
him
Bought
financially.
every book about him.
But Pac
Pac's
was
every
annoyed
song
by
was a
that
hit the East Coast.
and
Couldn't
thought that
compete or
he'll
get in
just
the sheets,
continue
so they got rid
doing
of
his
him.
own thing without Dr.DRE and Death Row. He actually thought of working things out with Eazy-E and getting him to sign the group Thug Life to Ruthless Records.
Damn, why he ain't
In late '93, Eazy-E signed the group Bone Thugs and Harmony, since him and his manager Jerry Heller thought that it would turn out to be a highly lucrative deal. They got rid of a lot of the older artists on that label and wanted to focus on Eazy-E's solo career and also on Bone Thugs and Harmony. At this point in time, Pac was still trying to put together not only his third album, but also a group album with Thug Life. Like mentioned earlier, they created multiple versions between 1993 and 1994, which either got rejected by Interscope or scrapped by Tupac himself. But until early '94, Pac would reach out to Eazy-E in hope that he could get himself a deal.
Damn, Eazy.
So that Thug Life gets signed to the label, and that Eazy-E puts an end to the censorship of Pac's music, cause he felt like Interscope was holding him back, that he can't express himself the way he wants. Again, Pac wanted to join the label that was repeatedly dissing Death Row and Dr.DRE, promising Eazy-E that he would help him out and diss them as well. He sent him one of the earlier versions of the Thug Life album, which E and his girlfriend Tomika Woods listened to. Eazy-E's girlfriend later became the CEO of the company. She told Eazy-E that she doesn't like Tupac's music, and that Bone Thugs and Harmony is better. That Bone Thugs is a...
They about to piss me the fuck off. I ain't gonna lie. You can't listen. Oh, why you can't listen, motherfuckers, man?
better group
They's
than
gonna be
Thug
out
Life.
mind they own, bro.
During those days, Pac also had a lot of negative press and drama surrounding him, especially the Ayanna Jackson assault case, which could get him some jail
Joanna
time.
Warren 530.
Why would you sign a guy who's about to go
Said,
to prison? That's
Pac
what they
was the
thought.
first to put out how bad
Eazy's
boys were,
manager,
but back
Jerry
then everyone
Heller,
thought he was
thought
just
that Pac would
Yapin,
only
but man,
cause
he was
trouble.
telling the truth.
And that signing him would
I
only
agree
be
with
a
you,
waste of money.
100%.
According to Eazy-E's then-girlfriend Tomika Woods, Pac went to E's house, knocked on the door, and
I wish
asked
I
him
was
to
just one of
sign.
his friends like me.
But
Fuck
Eazy-E
motherfuckers,
said
too.
no
But
and
do your
closed the
own
door.
thing.
That was their last conversation. Pac got mad when he heard Bone Thugs and Harmony for the first time, and thought that they were biting him. Two groups with the word thug in their name: Bone Thugs and Harmony and Thug Life.
At Joanna Warren 530,
Didn't I already hear a group called
said,
Thug something? I already heard about some
they took
Thug.
him too soon. It still breaks my heartbroken heart.
Who is Thug Life? This the original. We are the original thugs. I want to get to be real again.
After that,
Jack,
there
I
were
show
no
me
plans
your
of
screen.
working with Ruthless Records. But in 1994, the people from Death Row kept reaching out to him and wanted to put his music on movie soundtracks. This was not only an opportunity for him to get free promo, but he would also get paid for the individual songs instead of releasing an entire album on the label.
Motherfucking
so he would work with Death Row without being signed to that label. This way he could continue releasing albums on Interscope while occasionally working with Death Row as a side hustle. Because he wasn't really trusting them after they sabotaged his third album. According to his family, Tupac didn't really want to sign to Death Row anymore in 1994. So the plans they had in 93 of him joining the label were a thing of the past now. Only work he did for Death Row in 94 was him handing in a couple of songs and then getting paid for them by Suge Knight. He gave them the songs Pour Out a Little Liquor, Pain, and Loyal to the Game for the Above the Rim soundtrack, which was released on March 22nd, 1994. 7 days prior to the release of the soundtrack, meaning on March 15th, Pac went to the Above the Rim release party and met Dre, Snoop, The Dog Pound, The Lady of Rage, and Jewel from Death Row. Pac then continued to work on the group album Thug Life, and also on his third studio album, while facing assault charges which could get him locked up for a couple of years. He wanted to record as much music as possible, in fear that he won't be able to release music and make money while he's locked up.
I ain't gonna lie to you, he must took jail time.
On April 25th, 1994, both Tupac and Dr.DRE attended the 94 Source Awards in New York. Dre and Snoop won most of the awards that night, but they had a feeling that the people from the East Coast had a problem with them. Because the only rappers from the East Coast who won awards that night were A Tribe Called Quest, the Wu-Tang Clan, and KRS-One. The rappers on the West Coast, however, won 7 awards in total. 3 for Dr.DRE, 2 for Snoop, 1 for MC8, and 1 for Ice Cube. So rap fans from New York were upset that the West Coast took over.
It's a gift from my cousin Wade
They were outshining the rappers on the East Coast. Like for example the New York rap group Onyx, which was nominated in 5 categories, but they didn't win in any of them, even though they were the most hyped rap group at that point in time. I mean, they went platinum in just 7 months. Not even the Wu-Tang Clan was selling that much. The audience, which was of course filled with New Yorkers, had a problem with the West Coast winning more awards than the people from the East Coast. So they started booing them. And on top of that, when the New York rap group A Tribe Called Quest won the award for Best Artist of the Year in the group category, and then attempted to hold a speech giving props to the pioneers of hip-hop, Tupac all of a sudden interrupted them by rushing the stage with like 100 people rapping the song Out on Bail in front of them, while they were in the middle of their speech. The whole time A Tribe Called Quest was standing there in shock, not knowing what to do for like 3 minutes straight, as if they are held hostage by a group of thugs. Tupac had a super aggressive delivery during that performance, yelling Thug Life and F y'all mother effers before throwing away the microphone. As if he caused chaos and sabotaged the show intentionally to scare and humble A Tribe Called Quest and the people from the East Coast, showing them that he doesn't respect them. Q-Tip supposedly cried when that happened. But Pac didn't do it on purpose. His music started playing, so he got on stage thinking it's time to perform. There was a heated back and forth behind the scenes between rappers from the East Coast and from the West Coast. And Tupac had to explain himself cause everybody thought that he did it on purpose. He met Dre there too. And Dre was annoyed by how people from the East Coast treated them. So when he got back to LA, he recorded the intro to the Murder Was the Case soundtrack, in which he was more or less dissing the East Coast. He also gave Tupac's group Thug Life a shout-out, after that whole incident with A Tribe Called Quest. Death Row still wanted to sign him.
Yo, what's up? This is Dr.DRE. And before we get into this album, there's a few things I gotta say. Now, I just got a tape of the 1994 Source.
Let me stop a little bit, because it might be copyright check. I'm gonna stop for a minute.
Music Awards. And for everybody that wasn't there or didn't hear about it, a lot of again from the East Coast was talking ish.
Yeah, I keep stopping it.
About where hip hop started, who's running hip hop, and all this ish.
First of all, I'd like to thank and dedicate this to DJ Kool Herc for starting hip hop. What's a lot of motherfuckers out there and the rest of the other side of the world, wherever, don't know about. So I definitely want to dedicate that to him, African Bambaataa, and all the crews that started hip hop.
Y'all in the mood and not giving a fuck. You know what I'm saying? I don't know what's happening with all this.
Do they got this on YouTube? Cause I need to see the whole thing. I need to see the whole thing at this point.
Y'all shit is dope. Y'all shit is dope. Don't
I need to check. They probably do. They probably do.
selling cocaine.
Now check this out. If you ain't down with Death Row, the Dog Pound, Thug Life, the motherfucking Lynch Mob, the West Coast, my niggas down south, or anybody trying to keep hip-hop music alive.
Yo, motherfucker. Yeah, bro. Yo, that Thug Life and non-folk beyond. Thug Life in this mother.
The intro got scratched from the soundtrack and Pac didn't get to hear it. Then in July '94, Pac got into a disagreement with Dre's homie Ice Cube, with whom he was working on an album together called Helter Skelter. Years after the two went their separate ways when NWA disbanded. I covered Pac's beef with Cube in my beef analysis video, which I recommend you checking out. It explains why Pac lost respect for all his idols from NWA. Cube sabotaged a song he was working on called Dear Mama in July '94, at a time when Pac didn't really know.
I don't hear nobody say Tupac ain't the greatest, bro. These motherfuckers hating on Tupac, bro. Like, everybody from the era was hating on him. Like, that's crazy.
Know what to do with his third album. He wasn't sure which direction
Tupac,
to take
I love Friday.
after scrapping earlier versions of the album. He was evolving so fast as an artist that every album he worked on sounded different compared to the previous one. His music was a reflection of his life, and he went through many ups and downs in a very short amount of time. That's why every album follows a different theme. Thug Style was supposed to be his third album. After scrapping and redoing the project, it sounded nothing like what he had originally envisioned for the follow-up of his sophomore album. His music became a lot more serious, and most of those old tracks didn't match the overall theme and sound of the new ones. With songs like Dear Mama, So Many Tears, Me Against the World, Lord Knows, and If I Die Tonight. They don't sound like anything from the Thug Style album, so he couldn't use any of those songs, or else the album would be all over the place. His music became more poetic and meaningful. People like Dre and Snoop were part of the reason why Pac had to constantly reinvent himself
At Joanna
in
Warren
order to not
530
sound like a biter or an
said,
unoriginal copycat.
In
He wanted to
Sacramento
make
back
sure
in the
that he
day, I
dropped
was so
something
close
fresh,
on meeting Pac at
original,
the
and
studio
unique,
where he was recording
without
with
the
E40,
people
but
from
was
Death
called in at
Row
work
being
weary
able to
face.
copy it.
That's
So he made a personal and introspective album that revolves around the problems he's facing right now. He had a lot on his mind back then. The Ayanna Jackson assault case, gangsters like Haitian Jack threatening him, the problems he had with the police, him thinking that people will come to kill him. That's why his music became so serious. He changed the track list, the concepts, the themes, and even the name of the album, again and again, not knowing what to do. Cause it obviously had to be better than the one he scrapped. He went from Thug Style to Thug for Life, to Street Fame, to Troublesome, to Stay True, to Are You Still Down, to Me Versus the World, and then finally...
He scrapped them songs. Do his estate still got them songs? Cause they need to put that out. I ain't gonna lie.
To Me Against the World.
We need to hear it.
Pac's style and sound was changing drastically from the original Thug Style album
my money right
to the Me
now.
Against the World project.
Apple Pay.
Because this could have been his last album, depending on the outcome of the assault case. And Pac still had a lot of things that he wanted to say, at a time when he felt that the whole world was against him. In August '94, he then recorded the song Life's So Hard. Thought of adding it to the Thug Life album, which was supposed to drop a month later. The beat was originally done by his best friend Big Stretch from the Life Squad. But then the people from Death Row once again got their hands on Pac's unreleased music without him knowing. Snoop and the rapper Swoop G listened to the original version of the song Life's So Hard in Snoop's Chevy Suburban, and they loved it. According to Swoop G, they always studied Tupac style to use it for their...
If I hear anybody from now on talking about Snoop Dogg and top 5, top 50, you a motherfucking lie.
Their own music, and Pac really had a problem with that. Like mentioned
Julimo
earlier,
4300
Interscope always gave copies of Pac's
said,
unreleased music to the people from
"It's like
Death Row
200 unreleased
without Pac
songs."
knowing.
When we gonna get 'em,
Tupac
though?
actually started
That's what I
fights
wanna
with the people from Interscope because of that. And they
Shit,
always
it's about time
told
for a
him
new
that they
album,
didn't
right?
leak his music. So either they were lying
When
or
the last album
Death
came out? What,
Row had a
2008?
spy at Interscope working for them. They then reached out to him again and convinced him to do a remix for the song Life So Hard for the Murder Was a Case soundtrack.
No, you shouldn't have done that. Bro.
And Dre was listed as the executive producer of that album. According to the rapper Swoop G, Pac was in the studio with Snoop and the Dogg Pound when they made the remix for the song. They used the beat by Daz Dillinger from the Dogg Pound, which in my opinion ruined the whole vibe of the song. It was all over the place. But they thought it was the right move, since the production was originally handled by East Coast rap artist Big Stretch. So the song had an East Coast vibe to it. They wanted to do it Death Row style, with a West Coast sound. The East-West rivalry was a thing even back then. And the people on Death Row wanted their music to sound different from rappers on the East Coast. They always had outstanding, unique and trend-setting production that was very influential for the artists on the West Coast. So they wanted to add a funky West Coast twist to Life So Hard, but that song in particular was ruined in the process. They re-recorded the intro, outro and the verses. Snoop also added background vocals and ad-libs in the end. The song was originally supposed to be dark, sad, emotional, introspective, heartfelt and deep. But they tried to turn the song into a West Coast banger, with a funky beat and an aggressive vocal delivery, which didn't even fit the content of the lyrics and the theme of the song. It's like using the vocals for Brenda's Got a Baby over the beat for two of America's Most Wanted, rapping aggressively like on Hit 'Em Up.
At
Tupac only did the
4300
remix because he needed the money.
said,
He probably knew that the
"Big
remix is
Stretch
terrible.
was Pac best
And
friend
the
that
worst
set him
part
up at
is that
Quad
Snoop and the
Studios."
Dogg Pound didn't speak up when they ruined the song, cause they actually loved the original version of it. They once again sabotaged him, even if they didn't mean to. That Cheap Daz remix was so bad that they didn't even use it for the soundtrack. And they couldn't use it for the Thug Life album either, cause the soundtrack came out after the group album. It could have been one of Tupac's greatest songs. The original version is actually Idi Amin's favorite Pac song of all time. Idi is Tupac's brother-in-law and one of the members of Pac's group Dramacidal, which later became Outlaws. But Pac was still paid somewhere between $200,000 and $250,000 for that remix by Suge Knight himself, even though it was never used on the official soundtrack release. It was later added to the soundtrack for his posthumously released movie Gang Related in 1997, when they were trying to put out as much material as possible during a time when the rap world was craving for unreleased music by one of their deceased legends. But back in '94, everyone was shocked that Pac got that check. He wasn't even signed to Death Row at the time, and got that much money for just one song. It even surprised Snoop and the Dogg Pound, because according to Swoop G, they never got that much money while being on Death Row. That was Suge's way of showing Pac that he's appreciated, and that they really care about him. After the whole thing with the cancelled Thug Style album, and after all the shady things they did behind the scenes, with them listening to all his unreleased material for inspiration. Suge really loved Pac. They weren't even that close in the beginning, but the two had chemistry. They could tell that they're very similar, and had respect for each other. Suge himself said that he saw himself in Pac, and that Pac is the rap version of himself. Pac was really thankful for the money.
Pac has a lot of songs till this day no one has heard last. I was reading Eminem was given a lot from Pac's mom, but not sure how true that
Jackson
is.
assault case. Suge helped him out when no one else did. So he quickly forgot about them spying on him and messing up his third album. Suge told him that he wants the group Thug Life on Death Row to compete against Bone Thugs-n-Harmony on Ruthless Records. Him and Suge really got along, but Pac wanted to put out his next two records on Interscope first and see where it goes. He felt like this whole back and forth with him trying to find a new label was a waste of time. He had the assault case to worry about and didn't want to push back his albums again.
I know what you mean.
He didn't want to sign to a different label when he already recorded over 100 songs on Interscope that need to be put out.
Yes, search it.
So Pac felt like he should stay on Interscope for a bit, so that he didn't waste his time there the past 2 years with him coming up with one album concept after another and then never releasing any of it. The Thug Life album then came out on September 26, 1994, but it only had 10 songs on it. A lot of the tracks he recorded didn't make the cut due to Interscope having a problem with them. After that, on October 18th, the Murder Was the Case soundtrack came out, but without Life So Hot. On October 20th, they then invited him to the music video shoot for the song Natural Born Killers. The cameo was their way of showing Pac that he is an honorable member of the Death Row family, because they removed him from the soundtrack even though they wanted to show the world that he's part of the team. So they put him in the music video instead. The song was a collaboration between Dr. Dre and Ice Cube, who were working on the album Helter Skelter together, which never came out. Like mentioned earlier, Pac wasn't really cool with Cube at the time. There was a little friction between them because of the song Dear Mama. Dr. Dre and Cube weren't really his friends. They were business partners at best, because neither Cube nor Dre cared about collaborating with him. On November 30th, 1994, he was shot at the Quad Studios in New York. I covered this in my video, The Reason Why Tupac Got Shot 5 Times. You should definitely check it out. On February 7th, 1995, Tupac was then sentenced to 1.5 to 4.5 years in prison on abuse charges. His third studio album, Me Against the World, was then released a month later on March 14th, 1995. The album went platinum in just a month. So that was Pac's side of the story. All the way up until he got incarcerated. In order to understand both sides and to find out why Dre ended up leaving Death Row shortly after Pac got signed to the label, we have to take a look at what happened behind the scenes between Dr. Dre and his partner Suge Knight. Dre was serving a 5-month jail sentence between 94 and 95 for drunken driving and probation violation. On January 27th, 1991, he had physically assaulted MTV personality D. Bonds, and 7 months later, in August 91, he was placed on 2 years probation. Then in June 93, he pleaded no contest to battery charges stemming from an attack on a Woodland Hills man, who claimed that Dr. Dre broke his jaw. He was given a 90-day jail sentence. On January 10th, 1994, he was then arrested again after a high-speed chase through Beverly Hills in his 1987 white Ferrari for driving with twice the legal limit in California. The case for drunken driving marked Dre's third conviction on a misdemeanor offense since 1991, and was also in violation of his probation from a 1993 battery conviction. He violated the condition of his parole and was sentenced to 5 months in prison on August 30th, 1994. Dre had a huge drinking problem around that time, which also ruined his relationship with his fiancée Michelle A, who was a singer signed to Death Row Records. The two had been dating since 1988, since the NWA days, and had a 4-year-old son called Marcel. He was Michelle A's first and Dr. Dre's 6th child. They had tons of ups and downs during their relationship, since both of them had to deal with addiction. Their relationship became more strained due to Dre's drinking problem, infidelity, and volatile behavior. He would always cheat on her with groupies and girls he met at parties. Michelle A has stated that Dre was physically abusive throughout their relationship. Her injuries included a broken nose, which she had to have surgically corrected, a cracked rib, and 5 black eyes. Damn. There was even an argument where Dre shot at Michelle A, missing her by inches. She left the bullet in the door for him to see, and according to her, Dre never tried to shoot at her again. But the beatings continued, and she began to self-medicate with pills and alcohol.
Damn, baby.
Suge then tried to help her, when Dre had left Michelle A and the baby for weeks, without money or a car to go get food. And Suge took over for him. Got real close with her, took care of the child, gave Michelle A money, bought her and the kid groceries and things they needed to survive, fixed a lot of her problems, like for example bills that Dre forgot to pay, because of which Michelle A and her son were trapped in the mansion with no electricity, lights and ways to cook food, all while Dre was away.
He fucked up.
Before he got locked up, he was out partying with other girls. Michelle A later understood that these girls could have been sent by Suge to Dre in order to manipulate her, making it seem like Suge is the white knight and Dre is just a scumbag who would rather spend his time with girls than with his child and fiancé. Suge was trying to sleep with her, even though she was Dre's fiancé, and Dre was
Joanna
Suge's
Warren
partner.
530
They both co-owned the company.
said,
Michelle A, for
have you
example,
came
needed
across
groceries
Pac
and
who just
diapers
passed
for the
about a
kids,
month ago who
which
faked her death
Suge
and was
always
in Cuba
bought for
this
her.
whole time, man,
He
makes me
used
really
Dre's
wonder, but then I'm like, no.
irresponsibilities to his advantage to get closer to Michelle A. At Michelle A's shows, Dre was hugging and kissing other girls in the nose, which she had to have surgically corrected, a cracked rib, and 5 black eyes. There was even an argument where Dre shot at Michelle A, missing her by inches. She left the bullet in the door for him to see, and according to her, Dre never tried to shoot at her again. But the beatings continued, and she began to self-medicate with pills and alcohol. Suge then tried to help her when Dre had left Michelle A and the baby for weeks, without money or a car to go get food. And Suge took over for him, got real close with her, took care of the child, gave Michelle A money, bought her and the kid groceries and things they needed to survive, fixed a lot of her problems, like for example bills that Dre forgot to pay, because of which Michelle A and her son were trapped in the mansion with no electricity, lights and ways to cook food, all while Dre was away. Before he got locked up, he was out partying with other girls. Michelle A later understood that these girls could have been sent by Suge to Dre in order to manipulate her, making it seem like Suge is the white knight and Dre is just a scumbag who would rather spend his time with
didn't
girls
fake her death.
than with his child and fiancé.
And fled to Cuba.
Suge was trying to sleep with her, even though she was Dre's fiancé, and Dre was Suge's partner. They both co-owned the company. Michelle A, for example, needed groceries and diapers for the kids, which Suge always bought for her. He used Dre's irresponsibilities to his advantage to get closer to Michelle A. At Michelle A's shows, Dre was hugging and kissing other girls in front of her. Suge then tried to gain sympathy points by throwing the girls out, as a way to show Michelle A that unlike Dre, he cares for her, while Dre tries to use every opportunity to cheat. Suge would buy her jewelry and presents every Christmas, and also on her birthdays, even though he was married to a woman named Sharitha. Every time Michelle A told Suge, I don't know where Dre is, Suge would respond, well,
I have believed back then he
telling
passed,
her
but
that
after his aunt today it now
girls.
makes me wonder she did
Back
both,
then
even
she
changed
thought
her name
Suge
and all.
was just trying to be a good friend for both, trying to keep both sides happy. But after 20 years, she came to the conclusion that he was just trying to manipulate her. Her and Suge had an affair and a secret relationship between 94 and 95. They slept together behind Dre's back, while he was outside partying, working on music, or spending time in jail. Michelle A told Dre nothing about it, and still wanted to get married to him. Before going to jail, Dre's best friend and assistant, Bruce Williams, had hooked him up with a woman called Nicole, who Dre met at a nightclub. Dre wasn't out looking for love or for the right person that night. He just saw her and asked her for a number,
behind her,
with a cocky look on his face. Nicole said no, but Dre pursued and wanted to get to know her.
That's all they were trying to get
With the help of his best friend Bruce Williams, he was able to send her romantic letters, and Nicole was later convinced to give him a chance. At the time, she was actually married to the basketball player Sadil Threat, but she was unhappy.
I ain't gonna lie. In the 90s, y'all was cheating like a motherfucker. God damn, y'all cheating. Ain't nobody had a successful relationship. God damn.
In her marriage and cheated on him.
Get married.
According to Dre, him and Nicole started dating shortly before he turned himself in because of the probation violation, which got him 5 months in jail. Nicole's family didn't really like Dre and thought he was a troublemaker. But Nicole wanted to be with him instead of her husband, and even visited Dre in jail, while Dre's fiancée was cheating on him with his partner Suge Knight. They both co-owned Death Row. In jail, Dre thought about all the people that were around him, who he could trust and who really cared.
I got y'all. I'm gonna do it for y'all. I need to learn how to turn that motherfucker down. I got y'all. Alright, it's turned off.
That's for him. Nicole and his best friend Bruce Williams, who will both play a huge role later on in the story, were always there for him. But neither Snoop nor the Dog Pound paid him a visit for 5 months straight until he came out in 1995. In jail, he also heard that his old friend and rival Eazy-E was dying of AIDS and lying in the hospital.
Damn.
So he went there and paid him a visit. There he also met Ice Cube, who didn't visit him in jail either. While Dre was locked up in 95, Michelle's problems with alcohol really got out of control. They always had to keep an eye on her as if she's a problematic teenager. She fell in love with the singer Montel Jordan and tried to get physical with him at a party, around the time when his platinum single This Is How We Do It came out. The Death Row head of security, Reggie Wright, who was keeping an eye on her, noticed what she was doing and reported it to Suge. She later did the same thing to Tupac, touching his belly, rubbing his arms and head, hugging him, and a lot of people on Death Row thought that she was trying to seduce them. But they kept quiet, thinking that it would come to a fight between Dre and Suge, which could lead to the dissolvement of the label. Reggie told Suge she was trying to holler at Montel Jordan, and Suge said, "What? Really?" Suge was worried because he cared for her. The next day he asked Reggie again. He was a little jealous. "Hey Reg, what you tell me about Michelle A and Montel Jordan?" Michelle A then begged Reggie to not tell him. Suge then tried to get closer and closer to her. Dre didn't find out until the beginning of '96. Until then, the relationship continued. But Dre also had other things to worry about. Between 93 and 95, Dre not only had to deal with all the legal problems, his alcohol addiction and the issues with his label, which mostly revolved around Suge and his gang, the Mob Piru, terrorizing the industry and creating a frightening environment for all the artists on the label, so that everyone is too scared to come to work, in fear that they might get harmed. But Dre also had hit a dead end with his career, since none of the projects he was working on materialized, during a time when everybody expected him to drop the next game-changing album, a sequel to The Chronic, or an NWA reunion. There were rumors that Death Row was running out of money, because of all the heavy spending, mostly on Suge's part. So they needed the next big hit to get back on their feet. A lot of artists weren't getting paid what they were supposed to, and the label was only able to release 2 albums since 1992, which wasn't enough to generate enough money for the label to survive. And because of the Eazy-E beef, people were losing faith in him, saying that he fell off, that he's not a gangster like he claims he is, and that he can't drop another album on the level of The Chronic, with a song that's as dope as Nothing But a G Thing. He couldn't deal with the pressure, which is why it took him so long to drop his second album, a project that's worth being in the same conversation as The Chronic and Doggy Style. He was working on his second solo album, and also his collab album with Ice Cube, which got cancelled after he went to jail. Some people said that his creativity was at an all-time low, that he wasn't the same musical genius that he was when he made the 2 NWA albums, The Chronic and Doggy Style. He would let his co-producers do most of the work, and would take credit for work that other people did, beats made by lesser known producers. He would take full credit for them. And from a rapping perspective, his most loyal ghostwriter, the DOC, decided to leave the label and diss Dre for not getting paid what he was supposed to get. Him and Dre always felt uncomfortable when going to the studio because of all the Mob Piru members that Suge brought there. The DOC would always carry a gun with him when going to the studio. He always felt unsafe and had to be ready at all times. Just like Dre. He wasn't a gangster. The DOC even said that doing jail time was easier than doing studio time at Death Row. So it makes sense why Dre himself didn't want to work there anymore. But the DOC was also mad at Dre for not getting paid for his work. He had been writing lyrics for him since the late 80s. Would always risk his life by working in a dangerous environment that he didn't feel comfortable in, just to get exploited and threatened. So in late 94, the DOC took the lyrics and concepts from Dre and Cube's unreleased album Helter Skelter and left the label. Dre was left with basically nothing. And the DOC, who was trying to make a comeback following a car crash which severely damaged his vocal cords, decided to work on his own Helter Skelter album, keeping the name just to spite Dre, who always relied on other people to make hit records. Snoop and the Dogg Pound wanted to put out their own records without Dre's involvement, like the upcoming Dogg Pound album Dog Food and Snoop's sophomore album The Dogfather. Snoop and the Dogg Pound didn't visit Dr. Dre while he was in jail, and after he came out they weren't too close. Dre had already found a new team and didn't really need them. He had people like Jay Flex and Sam Snead. Jay Flex wrote Dre's verses on Keep Their Heads Ringing, Natural Born Killers, and also on California Love. Keep Their Heads Ringing and Natural Born Killers were also co-produced by Sam Snead. And they were supposed to work on Dre's next solo album. Snoop and the Dogg Pound weren't supposed to be on it. Dre kept distancing himself from the label and also from its artists. In summer 95, while Tupac was still in prison, Suge finally convinced him to join the label. But for that, they had to bail him out first. Suge first announced his plans of bringing Tupac to Death Row on August 3rd during the 95 Source Awards, and then negotiated a deal with him while he was in prison. Part of the 3-album contract was that Dre would take care of the production on all those projects, and Pac was really looking forward to working with him. Part of the reason why he joined was because of Dre's production. But Death Row was also the only label that offered to bail him out. Suge had more or less taken over Dre's role as the talent scout for the label. He would start signing people without Dre knowing about it. I mean, the two were co-owning the company. And with Dre's alcohol problem, him going to jail and being on house arrest, Suge more or less had to take over for him. The show must go on. They couldn't just stop running the company. But Dre felt some type of way about it, since he was losing importance within the label in all fields. On a business level, his role as a talent scout, a manager, him being the executive producer of every album, being in the studio with all the artists to make sure that the music is on point and to give feedback, and also on a music level, since he wasn't producing as much as he used to. Suge wanted to be the executive producer now of every album, and Daz Dillinger more or less became the main producer of Death Row, since Dre refused to come to Can-Am Studios. Daz and Suge were doing his work, so the label was already a mess. And now the hothead Pac comes in expecting to work with Dre. Some say that Dre didn't really care about Tupac getting bailed out and signed to Death Row, while others say that he wasn't happy about it as the label was already out of control, fearing that Pac is the straw that breaks the camel's back, so to speak, cause he was not only a troublemaker and a hothead, but also had tons of cases and problems with the police, on top of everyone else's issues like Snoop's, for example, who still had to deal with the murder case. Dre himself was under house arrest because of the probation violation. He was afraid that Death Row would slowly start to fall apart due to the heavy gang presence, the security getting replaced with gang members and troublemakers, court cases mounting up, the heavy spending to maintain a lavish and luxurious lifestyle with parties every week, artists being too lazy to put out music so that the label can generate income to actually balance the expenses, and overall it just felt like the people weren't getting paid what they were supposed to. Suge was giving rappers pocket money and luxury cars, which were still property of Death Row Records, instead of giving them the millions of dollars they've made for the label. According to the singer Jewel, Suge was paying random women who agreed to sleep with him in exchange for him making them famous more money than the artists on the label. According to her, that's where most of the money went. In the beginning, Dre was the superstar of the group. Snoop and the Dogg Pound were nobodies, and everything revolved around him. Everyone had to follow his orders, work on his album, contribute to it without getting credit, in hope that Dre turns them into superstars. But now they were all stars themselves, and were making music without his involvement. Suge was also able to run the company without him, which gave him the ability to do what he wants. The label was split into 3 groups. The Mob Piru faction, meaning Suge Knight, the security, Suge's homies, and later on Tupac. Then the second group, which were the Crips, meaning Snoop Dogg, the Dogg Pound, Nate Dogg, and all their homies. And then the third group, which consisted of those who didn't want to pick a side or get involved with gangs, which was Dre's team basically. Him, the DOC, who had already left the label, Jay Flex, who was his ghostwriter, and his co-producer Sam Snead. The Bloods and the Crips, of course, weren't best friends, and didn't hang out as much together as with the members of their own gang. And there was also put a lot of pressure on the third group, those who didn't want to join neither the Bloods or the Crips. They became outsiders and felt uncomfortable around them, especially around Suge's homeboys. The majority of people on Death Row were Mob Piru members. Jay Flex and Sam Snead aren't even from Cali, so it was like a culture shock to them. Just like for the DOC, who's originally from Texas. The Bloods on the label knew that Dre's team was not from the West. Due to the East-West feud, they kept an eye on Dre's homies. They treated them like outsiders, didn't trust them, even though all they wanted to do was make music. After Suge's infamous speech at the '95 Source Awards, which reignited the East-West hip-hop conflicts, the artists on both labels, Suge Knight's Death Row Records and Puff Daddy's Bad Boy Entertainment, got dragged into a bloody war where several people lost their lives. On September 23rd, 1995, Suge's friend and fellow Mob Piru member Big Jake, who was his security at the time, was shot and killed allegedly by Puffy's bodyguard Anthony Wolf Jones. And because of that, the Bloods on Death Row wanted to go to war with him. I covered this in my documentary for the Tupac shooting in Las Vegas. Make sure to check it out. It's called The Reason Why Puff Daddy Killed Tupac. So Death Row and Bad Boy were now beefing. But not everyone wanted to get involved, like Dre and his team for example. They thought it would be bad for business, and overall thought that it was pointless. Suge's homies, however, who were all Mob Piru members and made up the majority on Death Row, wanted retaliation. The Crips didn't want to get involved at first, but they got dragged into it later on. Dre knew that Tupac had a problem with a lot of the people on the East Coast, especially with Puffy and Bad Boy. He also knew that he was a hothead, and that it would escalate even further with him joining the label. He thought the last thing that the label needs at the time is a guy that does the exact opposite of de-escalating a problem. That really bothered him, since Death Row was his baby. He didn't want to abandon it or jump ship, so to speak. He wanted to save it and get it back on the right track by focusing on business instead of beef. There was already enough pressure on them, with them having to deliver artistically, meaning to drop better music than the artists on the East Coast in order to silence the haters and those who have super high expectations. They also wanted to keep Suge Knight and everybody on the West Coast happy, at a time when artists and fans on both coasts were picking sides and seeing the opposite coast as their enemy, or when people were getting death threats or losing their lives because of the feud between Death Row and Bad Boy. Dre just wanted to focus on the music, without beefing with anybody. He didn't want to be a part of the war, actually wanted to collaborate with rappers on the East Coast. He saw Big Jake's death not as a reason to retaliate, but as an eye-opener, and as proof that they shouldn't go this route. Keep the gunplay and violence to a minimum, and mainly focus on business, to stay peaceful or at least neutral. But it was beyond his control, even though he was technically the co-owner of the company. The Bloods on Death Row would also try to intimidate Dre's team, constantly asking them which side they were on, and treating them like outsiders. It would get worse day by day, and in the end it also got physical once Tupac joined the team. On October 12, 1995, Pac was released from the Clinton Correctional Facility in New York after being bailed out for $1.4 million and signed to Death Row Records. According to Tupac's chief engineer Tommy D, Dre was not happy with Tupac coming to Death Row, and he didn't want to do songs with him. He had already cancelled his plans of working on Nate Dogg's album and wanted to focus on his own career. The day Pac came out of prison and joined Death Row, Tommy D went to Dre's house where he supposedly witnessed Dre's reaction to Tupac joining the family. They told Dre, "Tupac's here. He got out of prison and went to the studio." To which Dre supposedly responded, "That's it. Now that Tupac's here, I gotta get out of here." But Dre didn't tell anyone about it. From the outside, it actually seemed like he was happy that Pac was on the team. But according to Tommy D, that wasn't the case. And he most likely told Pac later on about Dre's comments. It's unclear if Dre really said those things, and if he really felt like leaving the label because of Pac, who was actually excited to meet him and had to get a lot of his chest after spending so much time in prison. He was looking forward to working with them, thought that Dre would be in the studio with him every day and make beats for him. He recorded his 4th album, All Eyes on Me, in just a couple of weeks, shortly after getting released from prison. Dre and Pac saw each other less than 10 times after he came out of prison. In the month he came out, he didn't see him at all. I mean, he was almost done recording his double album by the end of October. Recorded tons of bangers with other producers, and Dre was nowhere to be found. The 3-album contract Tupac signed said that Dre would handle the production. But he didn't come to the studio for the All Eyes on Me recording sessions like all the other producers did. So by the end of October, Pac complained about him and asked Suge where he is and how he can reach him, reminding him about the deal and the agreement that Dre would produce his album. Pac actually had to get permission to drive to Dre's house in order to meet him, because of course he wouldn't just let anybody come to his house. It was a gated community and Dre had his own studio there. The reason why Dre rarely left his mansion was because he was on house arrest. Like mentioned earlier, he had violated his probation after driving recklessly while racing down Sunset with the cops chasing him. After spending time in jail, he was put on house arrest and couldn't leave whenever he wanted. So this might have been one of the reasons why he didn't visit Pac in the studio. But he did get permission to leave his house when shooting the music videos for California Love. So I'm pretty sure it would have been possible if he really wanted to. But Suge understood why Dre couldn't come, so he called him and asked him if it's fine for Tupac to pay him a visit, so that they can record some songs together at Dre's house where he has his own studio. The first studio session with Dre took place on November 2nd. They recorded the song Can't See Me together. Pac came in and saw Dre in the studio with the beat playing in the background. He could hear George Clinton's vocals coming out of the speakers. Dre then turned down the volume and asked Pac if he can write lyrics to it.
He turned to me today and go, "Can you write to this?" Right. Security, can I write to this? Is you crazy? And I'm in there doing my thing and I had to do it. I was in the booth. He's like, "Are you ready? Do your vocals." I had to stop and go, "Dre, you do not know how long I waited to get in this booth." And I have Dre out there going, "You ready?" You know what I mean? Yeah. I waited all my life for that, so straight out of Compton.
So Pac wrote 3 verses in just a couple of minutes. And Dre was surprised how dope the song turned out, because they had tried to use the beat for other projects before, and none of those versions were good enough to be released. Dre would usually give artists a tape with the beat so that they can listen to it at home and come up with lyrics. But Pac didn't need preparation and did a phenomenal job vocally. After 2 years, Dre finally managed to turn the beat into a hit. Cause he didn't know what to do with it, as it was laying around since they made Snoop Dogg's Doggy Style in '93. The beat is very similar to Dre Day and Snoop Dogg's What's My Name. It just has a different tempo, but uses the same sample.
Mr. Buster, where the you at? Can't scrap a lick, so I know you got your gap. From the depths of the sea, back to
damn, that was saying.
Give me my money in stacks and lace my with non-figures. Real singing ringers on nickel plated non-triggers.
It didn't make sense to add the song to the Doggy Style album since What's My Name has a very similar beat, so he decided to use it for the Helter Skelter album with Ice Cube. But it didn't really fit the overall theme of the album. Helter Skelter was supposed to sound dark and hardcore. Can't See Me is a funky party track, similar to Snoop's Gin and Juice and Who Am I? After the collab album with Cube was cancelled, he thought of giving the song to the Dog Pound, since the Dog Pound had a similar style as Snoop.
I think his dad's still alive. I think Tupac dad is still alive.
Dre originally had planned to put the song on the album Dog Food, which had already came out at that point. They named the song Can't See Me with the letter C instead of the word C, because Daz and Corrupt are Crips. But they cancelled it even though they had already recorded verses for it. Dre was cut off the Dog Pound's Dog Food album and had little to no involvement in it. as he was serving a 5-month jail sentence for drunken driving and probation violation. And after that, he was put on house arrest. He couldn't be there for the Dog Pound when they made their album. And even if he could, he wasn't really working with them as much as he used to. Snoop and the Dog Pound didn't pay him a visit while he was in jail, and wanted to make music without him. So Dre had no clue what to do with the beats and just gave it to Tupac. But he allegedly told him that he made the beat specifically for him. Pac supposedly didn't know that it's a recycled song. So when he played it in front of the Dog Pound, they were confused and told him that it was one of their songs. In the intro, you can hear George Clinton saying, "They will never see the P." Dre kept that part for Pac's version of the song. The P was a double entendre and stood for P-Funk and also for Pound, as it was a song for the Dog Pound. They kept the intro since P could also stand for Pac, who was way more versatile than Dre. He could rap over all types of beats. He had mastered hundreds of styles, including the one of the Dog Pound. So it was very easy for him to jump on a Snoop Dogg/Dog Pound type beat and do it better than all of them, in just a couple of minutes without preparation. Pac and Dre supposedly made another song called Blunt Time, which is still unreleased to this day. Dre later gave that beat to the rapper RBX and put the song on the Aftermath album a whole year later. Pac knew that he probably can't come back to Dre's house to record more music. So before leaving the studio, he asked him if he has any more beats for the album. Dre just gave him Daz Dillinger's song Got My Mind Made Up, pretending that he made the song himself, instead of just giving him one of his own beats. "Yo, I got a song with Method Man and Redman." Told him that it's fine for him to have it. He was a fan of Method Man and Redman, and the song itself is top tier. So Pac was of course thankful. He took the tapes with him and wanted to add his verse to Got My Mind Made Up later. The following day, November 3rd, Suge Knight got in touch with Dre, asking him how it went, and if they were able to make some bangers together. He also asked him about the song California Love, which Dre was thinking of putting out as a solo record. Dre had already the beats and 2 verses ready, which were written by ghostwriter Jay Flex. He wasn't fully happy with the version he had. He wanted the song to be a comeback single for his next album, a part 2 to Nothing But a G Thing. The song had originally 2 verses by Dre, but the second one was mediocre and replaceable.
I'm back under your cap with Zap, dropping them bomb ass raps that hit you like pimp slaps.
Yeah, we need it. Yeah, we need it.
Dre was in the studio every day thinking of a way to improve the song, asking himself if he should really release it the way it is, cause he felt like something was missing. It was more on the level of the song Keep the Heads Ringing as on Nothing But a G Thing, but he wanted to put out something that's considered one of the greatest rap songs of all time, a platinum hit for a multi-platinum album, something that doesn't get forgotten about like Keep the Heads Ringing, which was his last single, and it quote-unquote only went gold. Suge Knight convinced him to let Pac jump on the song, saying that they should use his hype to their advantage. On Saturday, November 4th, Pac was at K&M Studios with Nate Dogg, Johnny J, The Outlaws, X, members of Thug Life, and some others working on music. Dre all of a sudden came in unannounced, walked up to Pac with 2 tapes, one in each arm, and said, "Hey, I was going to keep this for myself, but I decided to give it to you, so that both of us can get on it. It's called California Love." The pictures you see of Dre and Pac together were from that studio session at K&M. Dre left his house and got out of his comfort zone to pay Tupac a visit in the studio, for the first and also last time. Pac was super happy when he saw him. He was kinda disappointed that Dre didn't produce his entire album, and that they only had 1 studio session together. But the moment Dre played the beat for California Love, everyone in the room got excited and was blown away. Everyone was proud, saying Dre came down here for us. They were in party mood.
You played California Love, so Dre, you know you owe me this. I'm new on Death Row, fresh out of jail. You know you ain't gonna be finished your album no time soon.
Pac listened to the beats and wrote his verse in 15 minutes. Dre was really impressed by Pac's rapping skills, his delivery, and how he could outshine him on his own song, even though it only took him a couple of minutes, while he himself needed weeks to perfect the song.
Couple minutes.
Park's
crazy.
style and energy fit the song perfectly and improved it. It was exactly what Dre was looking for. Only thing he didn't like about Park was that he brought all his homies with him. They weren't even there to make music. They were just drinking and partying. Dre didn't really feel comfortable in those type of environments. He prefers working alone or in a small group, without having 20 people running around in the studio. According to Michelle A., Dre can't work or focus when having so many strangers around. He didn't even like recording music at Can-Am Studios with all the other artists on Death Row. He preferred being around less than a handful of people. That's part of the reason why he got himself a studio in his own house, so that he doesn't have to deal with random people telling him what to do. Dre had also brought the tape for the remix version of California Love, which he had bought from the producers Lay Law and D-Mac. But Dre didn't tell Park anything about it, so he thought he's getting 2 more Dre tracks for his album, and was excited. But Dre's plan was to only give Park the remix version, not the original version he produced himself. For All Eyes on Me, they recorded around 46 songs. 27 of those landed on the album, and Dre only produced 1 of them, Can't See Me.
Yeah, you missed out on some money, Dre.
Recycled.
That motherfucker album
He didn't even produce it with the intention of giving it to Tupac. It was an old instrumental that Dre already had in the chamber, and had saved for later. Like explained earlier, California Love was originally supposed to be Dr. Dre's solo. He had no plans of giving that song away. He wanted it for his own album. Dre only gave him the remix, which was produced by Lay Law and D-Mac. Dre only took credit for it, meaning technically he only produced 1 song off the album. I never hung out with Tupac or nothing. For that 1 song I decided I was going to start on my next album, and I did California Love. It was just me on the song originally. I wanted the song to come out right then, but I didn't have a record out. So me and Shook got together and was like, yo, let's put this on Tupac's album, since it's about to come out now. So what I did was take out my second verse and put in Tupac's verse and let him do the ad-libs at the end. Then bam, we do the video. That's how that happened. The part about Dre and Suge agreeing to put the song on Tupac's album came later. At first they just wanted to see if the two have chemistry, and if he can somehow improve Dre's song. Suge had to later drive to Dre's house and convince him to give the song to Tupac, but Suge could only get the remix for him, which Dre didn't even produce. But back to the California Love studio session on Saturday, November 4th. After recording Park's vocals, they listened to it and agreed that both versions of the song are ready to be mixed and mastered. Dre then told Park that they're going to shoot the music video for California Love next weekend. Park was excited for that as well. Him and his homies then left the studio so that Dre can finish the tracks. Dre then decided to take a break and come back a few hours later to finish mixing the songs. But his friends thought that Dre deserves to take the day off, now that they've perfected California Love. So he said, yo, let's just block out the studio for the whole weekend. Dre then agreed, and they put the tape on the board so that nobody can touch it. They left everything as it is and came back the next day. All of a sudden, some random strangers come into Dre's studio without permission, all excited, greeting and hugging him, saying, man, glad to be on the same label with you. Dre didn't know what to say and had no clue what was going on. He had a strange look on his face. Suge had started to sign random people to Death Row, without Dre's approval. They had an agreement that Dre would be the one who signs artists, that Suge would stay out of it. Dre would only work and spend time with people that he himself brought to the label. And so far, he had only signed a small group of people. Dre wouldn't just let anybody in. Suge Knight had no clue about music but would still give people record deals, without talking to someone who can actually tell who has talent and who can benefit the company. His friend then asked him what was wrong, and Dre said, I don't know if you know how it's set up, but the way it's supposed to be set up, Suge is supposed to take care of the business, and I'm supposed to take care of the creative. Ain't nobody supposed to sign to this company unless I hear him first.
Damn.
I'm trying to keep a certain quality and integrity to our company. Now Suge just signing people. Not checking with me. They signing people now. Suge was taking over and violating the agreement. Dre had lost creative control and was obviously upset about it, thinking that Death Row is going downhill. He had already stopped producing beats for other people on the label, cause Suge invited other producers to come work with the artists on Death Row, so that they can put out music faster and without Dre's involvement. Cause they had wasted a lot of time because of Dre's alcohol addiction and him going to jail. Suge felt like the company has to be able to make music even if Dre is gone. But Dre only started Death Row because he was promised that he will have full control over the music, so that he gets to decide what the label puts out. But times had changed now, and Dre didn't feel respected or appreciated anymore by Suge. It felt like he got demoted from being the co-owner of the company to one of the many artists on the label, while Suge is on top. Some people think that this was the point where Dre decided that it was best for him to leave the company, although he would still stick around for the next 4 months. On November 9th, which was a day before they started filming the music video for California Love, Suge Knight went to Dre's house to convince him to give the song to Tupac, instead of saving it for Dre's next album, The Chronic 2, A New World Order, Papa's Got a Brand New Funk. Dre wasn't happy with it, as he would essentially have to give away the only timeless banger he had at the time. He saw it as his only way to make a successful comeback. The rest of the songs he had weren't strong enough to put out as singles. He was also told that Death Row will be focusing on Tupac first, that they would use his hype to their advantage, and let him put out as much music as possible. So Dre was indirectly told to wait his turn, and to step back while Pac takes over the game. At a time when the rap world was bombarding Dre with questions about his next album, asking him why he's taking so long, and when he will finally drop, cause the rap game was slowly turning his back on him after his loss against Eazy-E during their rap beef, which made people from Compton, the city he was representing, turn their backs on him. And to many people from there, he also lost his credibility as a gangster. So Dre wanted to come back strong and win back all his fans. You can't do that if you give away your best songs. Cause Dre had to wait a year for Snoop to drop his album, and then after failing to drop his album Helter Skelter, he had to wait for the Dog Pound to drop their album. And now that it's finally Dre's turn again, they want him to wait again for Tupac. And then you also had another Snoop Dogg album on the way, which was The Dogfather. Plus all the people that Suge signed to the label, who were all waiting for their turn. How is Dre supposed to come up with another California Love when he's being told to wait for the others to drop first and is giving away his best songs for their albums? Dre only had a small amount of beats and couldn't afford to give them all away. Some producers make beats within hours or days, but Dre always took his time. Sometimes it took him months to do one song, and he was getting tired of people popping up every few months asking him for beats. So Dre more or less felt neglected and treated like an unimportant benchwarmer, even though it was his own label. He wanted to be the main priority and the biggest artist on the label. With him giving away California Love, he would once again have to go back and come up with the next game-changing rap anthem to sell the album, before Suge can ask him to give the song to someone else. It became harder and harder for him to make bangers after giving away all his beats to Snoop for his Doggy Style album, cause Snoop ended up selling twice as much as Dre, and after that they more or less went their separate ways. Snoop ended up working with Daz instead and didn't pay Dre a visit while he was in jail, so they weren't really best friends. I mean, Dre had no involvement in Snoop's sophomore album Dogfather, and there were no plans of them collaborating again. All the people he made famous weren't helping him with his album. And now Dre was on his own again, working with a small team of lesser known artists, struggling to come up with an album that's on the level of The Chronic or Doggy Style. He didn't want to make the same mistake again, and neglect his solo career while making others more successful than him. So he told Suge that he's not giving away California Love. The two later came to an agreement that Tupac can have the remix version, and that Dre can keep the original version for his own album, The Chronic 2. They also agreed that they would shoot 2 music videos. The more expensive video for Dre's version and the other for Tupac. But Dre didn't tell Suge that he wasn't the one who actually produced the remix. Suge thought that Pac would at least get a Dre beat, even if it's quote-unquote just a remix version, which Pac thought was produced by Dre. But no, the beat was produced by Lay Law and D-Mac.
Damn.
Dre bought it from them and took credit for it.
Damn.
So technically, Pac only got 1 Dre beat for All Eyes on Me, which is the Dog Pound song Can't See Me. Dre obviously knew that the remix version is inferior. He didn't want to give Tupac his strongest track at the time. According to his ghostwriter Jay Flex, Dre had around 4 more bangers ready to be released, but none of them were on the level of California Love. A day later, they started filming the music video for California Love, which took them a little more than half a week, meaning from Friday, November 10th to Monday, November 13th. That was one of the few times Pac and Dre hung out together. It was filmed in El Mirage, California, and takes place in the desert in the year 2095. Dre's ghostwriter Jay Flex was there too, and according to him, you could tell that Pac had a problem with Dre. Everybody was drunk and they were hanging out at the set of California Love late at night. Pac talked about all the stuff he went through the past couple of months, and then Dre told him, "We got your back though, Pac." To which Tupac allegedly responded, "Man, you people wouldn't do ish for me." Pac was drunk, so Jay Flex and Dre thought that he was talking nonsense. And they didn't really take it to heart until months later. A camera team then came and Tupac did that scene with Suge Knight where he's counting his money and advertising Death Row. At the video set, Dre also introduced Pac to the singer Nancy Fletcher, who was told by Pac that he doesn't like Dre. Nancy was shocked because she was Dre's artist and had just met Pac for the first time. She was surprised how he said it to a complete stranger, not knowing if she would keep it to herself. Cause Dre was technically Tupac's boss, the guy who just gave you his best song, California Love. The singer Natasha Walker, who was the one who told Tupac that Dre, Snoop and the Dog Pound are biting his Thug Style album, confirmed that Tupac never liked Dre, and told Nancy Fletcher that he only pretended to like him for business purposes. Pac always acted like he was cool with him, and he had everybody convinced. There wasn't even much of a beef between them, aside from Dre sabotaging Pac's album Thug Style and then not coming around to help him on All Eyes on Me. 15 days later, on November 28th, Tupac recorded his verse for Got My Mind Made Up, before driving to Compton to film the music video for the remix to California Love with Dr. Dre. Pac brought the tapes to Got My Mind Made Up, which Dez had left at Dre's house, to Can-Am Studios, where all the artists on Death Row, excluding Dr. Dre, would work on music. According to Dez, he just happened to be walking by the studio when he saw Tupac playing the song Got My Mind Made Up. Pac was like, "I got a beat with Method Man and Redman. Dre made it." At least that's what he was told. According to Method Man, Dez and Corrupt had already did their verses before Pac came out of prison. So Pac probably wanted to tell Dez that he's getting on the track too. Dez then said, "That's my beat. I did that." Pac was like, "Wait, that's your ish?" Dez was mad when he saw him with those tapes. Tupac of course didn't know and was fuming after hearing that Dre didn't actually produce it. Dez had told him about Dre always taking credit for a lot of the ideas he had since the release of The Chronic. And that's one of the reasons why he didn't want to work with him, but rather produce his own albums without Dre's involvement. Especially after finding out what Dre did behind his back, when he caught Pac with those tapes. Dez had left the tapes for the song Got My Mind Made Up at Dre's house, since he had the machine to run it off on the big wheels. He had produced the beat himself. It was originally meant for their debut album Dog Food, which came out 2 days before Dre gave Tupac those tapes, meaning on October 31st, 1995. The reason why Got My Mind Made Up didn't make the album is because Dez forgot where he left the song. He thought he lost it, so he was surprised that Tupac had those tapes. Dre had probably given him those tapes since it was tradition on Death Row that everyone on the label contributes to the next project that's coming out. When Dre made The Chronic, everyone worked on his album. They also did the same for Doggy Style. That's probably why Dre thought that it was okay for him to just give Tupac those tapes, assuming that Daz didn't want to put it out. But Daz wanted to save it for the next Dogg Pound album. Him and Corrupt, along with Method Man, Redman and Inspector Deck, had rapped over that beat and recorded their vocals. Somehow one of the tapes with Inspector Deck's verse was missing. That's why you didn't hear him on the final product. You could only hear his ad-libs in the outro, which were on one of those tapes. Pac asked Daz why Dre would lie to him, saying that he made the beat and that it's fine for him to take it. According to Daz, that's how the feud between Dre and Pac started. Pac then started rambling about Dre. It blew his mind that he's taking credit for everything, without even doing anything. He was mad that he wasn't coming around, that he's letting everyone else handle the production on All Eyes on Me, while putting his name on it in the end, and getting paid for it. Pac didn't want Dre to be listed as the executive producer for the album, since they recorded all the songs without him, while he's quote-unquote sitting in his mansion all high and mighty, counting his money, calling him a lazy fraud. Daz was cool with Pac getting on the track and putting it on his album, but of course he would have preferred it if it landed on the Dogg Pound album. Pac also found out that Can't See Me was meant for the Dogg Pound as well. So 2 of the songs he got from Dre were meant for the Dogg Pound. And one of them wasn't even produced by him. And Dre also took credit for the California Love remix, which he didn't even produce. His disappointment was immeasurable. He was told that Dre wasn't really involved with the artists on Death Row anymore. He complained about Dre's work ethic, saying that he takes years to do one song. Felt like he's too lazy, just like a lot of the artists on the label, cause one of the reasons why Pac got signed was to help Death Row to grow. They had been stagnating for years, and were getting left behind by Bad Boy Records, with Biggie taking over, winning all the awards, getting crowned the King of New York, and releasing hit after hit, giving the haters on the East Coast exactly what they want, to prove that their coast is superior. That's what the people on the West Coast wanted to prevent. The East Coast was back on top, while Dre and everyone on Death Row was catching one case after another, partying, smoking weed, chilling, while allowing the enemy to leave them behind. That's how Pac saw it. His work ethic was second to none. The same day he got bailed out, he went to the studio to record songs, and had a classic double album ready in just a couple of weeks. Between 1992 and the day Tupac came out of prison, Death Row had only released 2 albums, with dozens of artists on the label. He wanted Death Row to level up and work as fast as him, wanted the label to drop hit after hit in a very short amount of time, so that no other label can compete. But Dre, as the boss and main artist on the label, hadn't released an album in 3 years. All he had was California Love and a few more songs that were subpar compared to the tracks he had on the Chronic. Dre wanted to make a strong comeback with an album on the same level as the first one. According to him, Doggy Style was inferior to the Chronic, and the quality of their music was getting worse and worse. Dre had hit a low point in his career in terms of creativity and productivity. Every artist on Death Row was expecting beats from him. Shook had signed dozens of new artists without Dre knowing about it, promising them that Dre will produce their albums. And Dre didn't really want to work with them. I mean, he struggled with his own career. Why would he spend his time working for random people? He only worked with a handful of artists that he picked himself. You had multiple artists in multiple studios working on albums, but none of them could be released without Dre's final stamp on it. Dre was taking too long with his music and couldn't leave the house to work with others because of the house arrest. So all the albums were getting pushed back, until Dre adds the finishing touches. He always got credited as the executive producer of every album released on Death Row. He couldn't be there for the Dogg Pound, but still got credited as the executive producer. And Pac had a problem with that. He didn't want Dre to be credited as the executive producer of All Eyes on Me, cause he wasn't there. All Eyes on Me became the first album released on Death Row that doesn't list Dre as the executive producer. Shook then didn't know what to do. Dre's beats were seen as the best in the game, so every artist on the label waited for Dre's input before putting out the projects. Shook signed one artist after another, making empty promises, They all joined because of Dre, thinking that he's going to turn them into superstars like Snoop Dogg.
He ain't no better than
Dre had his own studio in his mansion, but obviously wouldn't let random strangers come to work with him. The company was built on the idea that Dre gets behind every artist, that he handles the production and only puts out quality material. Game-changing music with the best beats ever. That was their brand.
Mine too.
According to Low MB from the group OFTB, everybody came for Dre's production and stayed for Daz Dillinger after realizing that Daz is the man. The whole time Pac was wondering why Dre never came to help him with his album, or at least to give him a little feedback, cause he saw how Dre stole all of Pac's ideas from the Thug Style album and gave it to Snoop. But now that it's finally his turn to get that type of support from Dre, he wasn't there for him. Didn't even do the mixing. DJ Quick was the one who did that. Didn't hang out with him when he was in the studio making music. Since 1993, he made less than a handful beats that saw the light of day, most of which got co-produced by Sam Snead. Since then, he didn't really make beats for anyone but himself, which made it seem like he didn't really care about any of the artists on the label. So that's why Pac started to feel some type of way about him. He still thought of Death Row as a family, and wanted to show the world that they're the perfect team, even though they weren't really cool with each other. Dre still wanted California Love for himself, so there was a little dispute and argument between Dre and Suge as well, cause Suge was trying to give it to Tupac, who was ranting about Dre all the time. Suge told him to calm down and that he's going to handle it, after Pac expressed his frustration and disappointment. He felt stupid for playing Got My Mind Made Up and Can't See Me in front of Dez, seeing him jump out of his seat in shock, cause Pac wasn't supposed to get those songs. He got fooled by Dre to use those songs behind their backs, even though Dez and Corrupt were his friends. He waited his whole career to be able to work with Dre, and all he gets is 2 Dog Pound songs and a collaboration with Dre that he wants to keep for himself. Suge could totally understand his frustration. He was like the middleman between Dre and Pac. He was trying to keep both sides happy. His partner, the co-founder of Death Row on one side, and the most hyped rapper in the world on the other. Tupac was creating a divide within the label at a time when Dre was really fed up with the company. Pac was not only a hothead, but he also had no patience. He was putting the pressure on Suge to go do something. Dre was his partner for years, so he couldn't just tell him what to do and risk getting the label in trouble. Pac didn't know about all the problems Dre had with Death Row. To be honest, it kinda seemed like Pac was overreacting and creating drama out of nowhere for no reason. They could have talked it out and worked together on a different date. There was no need for him to start a fight with his boss, cause Dre was co-owning the company, and Pac was trying to turn the bosses against each other, so that Suge replaces Dre with Tupac as his partner, meaning that Pac becomes Suge's right-hand man. I mean, Pac would take credit for making Dre leave his own company, and the way he was nagging about Dre, it really seemed like he didn't want him on the label. We are talking about a 2-month time frame here. All Eyez on Me was recorded in '95, so just because Dre couldn't be there for you during that short amount of time doesn't mean that you can treat him like this. He's the co-owner of the company, and you're lucky enough to get bailed out and join the label. He would also start fights with the Dog Pound and other people on the label. They could have easily worked things out and made more music together.
Damn, I wish they
But Pac was really trying to make Suge hate Dre, even though the two knew each other for years and made business together way before Suge met Pac. Death Row wouldn't even be what it is without Dre and NWA. But now, here comes a young, hot-headed guy who wants all the attention for himself and creates drama out of nowhere for no reason, on a label with artists who all sold more than him. Dre and Snoop were bigger than Pac before the release of All Eyez on Me, but Pac was still looking down on people, instead of being grateful that they got him out of prison, when no one else wanted to give him another chance. So yeah, if Pac had a little more patience and was less of a troublemaker, him and Dre would have definitely made more music together, and would have probably became great friends. After recording his verse for Got My Mind Made Up on November 28th, he drove to Compton to shoot the music video for the California Love remix with Dr. Dre. From the outside it seemed like Dre and Pac were homeboys, but behind the scenes they had arguments and disagreements, which they were trying to hide from the public, to keep the image and illusion of Death Row being a family alive. Cause Pac confronted Dre about the Got My Mind Made Up beat that same day. They had a little argument, but Pac wasn't really able to solve the issue as they were about to shoot the music video together, in which they tried to make it seem like Dre and Pac are best friends, partying, celebrating and smiling for the cameras. According to Suge Knight, both Pac and Dre hated each other. Dre didn't want Pac to come to his house and had no further plans of working with him. Pac didn't want to work with him either. He came only to his house once and then never again. On December 3rd, the single California Love finally comes out, but Dre is listed as the feature guest. This wasn't what him and Suge had agreed on. Dre wanted Tupac to be listed as a feature, so that everyone knows that the original version is his song and belongs on his album. They released the original version and the remix together on vinyl and as a cassette. Dre was listed as the feature on both versions, so that the original version is Tupac's single and the remix a bonus. Suge labeled it as a mistake, but he might have done it on purpose, telling him that it's not a big deal and that he still can put it on his album The Chronic 2, with Pac listed as the feature, and that only the remix version will appear on the All Eyes on Me album. Dre said fine, and that was that. But Lay Law then called Dre and asked him why he ain't credited as the producer on the remix, cause Dre was listed as the producer of both versions. He then told him that Suge messed it up, and that he gave him credits for the remix. Lay Law then called Suge and he said, Dre never gave me the credits, Law, meaning that it was Dre who messed it up. They were blame shifting. So there was a lot of miscommunication. Nobody really understood what was going on. Lay Law then called Pac to inform him about not getting credited for the remix, and Pac told him that he wants to leave Death Row. He was fed up. Pac once again found out that Dre took credit for work that other people did.
Damn.
According to Death Row head of security Reggie Wright, Pac complained to Suge that Dre is always taking credit for work he didn't do, that he's not around when everyone is making music, and Suge ended up taking Pac's side, even though he always respected Dre and had a great relationship with him. It wasn't the type of atmosphere that Pac had envisioned before joining the label. He thought that everyone on the label would work together as a team, so that they can take over the game and outshine the East Coast. He wanted to give Death Row the necessary push to double and triple their efforts, so that they can maximize their musical output and dominate the charts. When he joined the family, everything was disorganized. There was no discipline or real motivation. Everyone was just partying, smoking weed, getting drunk and enjoying life, while being too lazy to get things done. How can you have over a dozen artists on the label and only drop 3 albums within 4 years? How can you call yourself the #1 label when you release less music than all the other companies? Tupac alone between 92 and 95 had worked on more albums than the entire Death Row family combined. His work ethic and discipline really opened their eyes and pushed them to work harder. Everyone except Dr. Dre was influenced by what he brought to the table. Pac was at K&M Studios almost every day, working with all the artists on Death Row, while Dre was quote-unquote chilling in his mansion and not caring about his brand or company. Then on December 7th, Pac and everyone from Death Row went to Snoop Dogg's murder trial. Pac was wondering why Dre didn't show up. Suge Knight would always invite the entire Death Row family to come, and to prove their loyalty, everyone would always attend, excluding Dr. Dre. And Pac was wondering why Dre didn't show up, so he asked him why he ain't coming. He then found out about Dre not being there during any of Snoop's court hearings during his murder trial. One of the witnesses had claimed that Dr. Dre was in the car from which they shot and killed the rival gang member Philip Walder Merriam. He actually said that Dre was the shooter, but Snoop was the one who was accused of murder. According to Death Row head of security Reggie Wright, the witness confused Dre and Snoop, meaning he saw Snoop in the car and not Dre. Snoop's lawyer wanted to call Dre into court so that he can say, "I'm Dr. Dre," so that everyone in court can make sure that the witness has no clue what he's talking about, by making him understand that he accused the wrong person. So that the judge can say, "Why does the witness keep referring to Snoop Dogg as Dr. Dre?" Snoop's lawyer wanted to play a game like that to damage the credibility of the witness, who might have misspoken during the trial. But Dr. Dre's name was brought up again and again. So they wanted to counter it, basically, in order to make sure that Snoop doesn't go to prison. But Dre was like, "Nah, I'm not putting myself in there like that. I'm not doing that." He never came to a single court date for Snoop, not even as a spectator in the audience. Meaning, even before they wanted him to speak in front of the jury, Dre wasn't coming to the hearings. Dre didn't show up, quote unquote, because of the house arrest, which he got for violating his probation. Some people even say that he was in the car during one of those hearings and decided to not go inside the building. Later he admitted that he didn't want to go there. Since Snoop didn't come to visit him in jail, he didn't think it was necessary for him to pay him a visit in court. He didn't want to see Snoop during his worst moments. And according to Dre, Snoop knew about it. There were also rumors that Dre was advised not to come by Jimmy Iovine, who's the co-founder of Interscope Records. Dre told him that he ain't coming, that he doesn't want to get involved with the case. He didn't come to a single court date during Snoop's trial. If Dre would have came in and said that he wasn't there, and had produced a credible alibi to prove his claim, the witness's recant would have been dismissed and would have helped Snoop's case. Because during the trial, they kept bringing up the part about Dre being there. Pac and Suge felt like Dre was backstabbing Snoop by not coming. Thought that he was disloyal. Pac was like, he doesn't care about me, he doesn't care about Snoop, he doesn't care about the Dog Pound, he doesn't care about all the artists on the label, he doesn't care about Death Row in general. All he cares about is himself. How can this guy run a company and not even care about it? He can't even support his friend and partner when they're trying to lock him up and end his career. That's how Pac felt. I mean, Snoop's career would have been over, and Death Row would have lost its biggest artist on the label. All Eyes on Me was still not released, so Snoop was the biggest artist on the label, and he helped Dre to get back on his feet after leaving NWA. According to Pac, Dre would have fallen off, and Death Row wouldn't be where it is without the help of Snoop. When Ice Cube destroyed NWA with No Vaseline, and when Eazy-E destroyed Dre's image and reputation with Real Compton CDGs, Snoop was there to help him. And Pac got really pissed about how Dre didn't even care about Snoop shivering in court, praying and fearing for his life, knowing that losing Snoop would negatively affect the company. But Suge once again told Pac to calm down and forget about it. 8 days later, on December 15th, Dre and Pac attended the Death Row Christmas party in the Hollywood Hills. The two can be seen in pictures and video footage. Everyone was in good mood. There's also footage of Dre hanging out with Michelle Lay. You can hear him call her his girl for life. In this clip, you can clearly see that Dre really cared about her. The two were still a couple by the end of '95 and still planned to get married. Dre didn't hear about Michelle Lay's relationship with Suge until early '96. Dre had stopped abusing Michelle Lay, and their relationship had actually improved. December 15th was also the day the incident happened where Tupac, Suge, and members of the Mob Piru made record promoter Mark Anthony Bell drink Suge's urine after refusing to tell them the location of Puff Daddy's mansion. This happened at the same Christmas party where you can see Pac and Dre all happy and cheerful on photos and in video clips. The promoter was beaten up and tortured while he got questioned. According to him, Dre was there too, but didn't do anything. The people from Death Row wanted to confront Puffy after Suge's friend Big Jake was shot and killed by one of Puffy's friends. I covered the shooting and the incident with Mark Bell in detail in my video, The Reason Why Puffy Killed Tupac. Make sure to check it out. There are rumors that Dre was upset about what Pac, Suge, and the others did to Mark Bell. That Dre was just standing back, not knowing what to do. when multiple people beat up the promoter. Dre was already tired of all the violence that Suge and his fellow Mob Piru members brought to the label. This incident was one of the many reasons why Dre later decided to leave the company. The police then came and shut down the party. Dre and Michelle drove home in a limo. Reggie then told Suge about it, who supposedly got mad that the two were still a couple. He was jealous and wanted Dre to break up with her, so that he can have Michelle for himself. But all three, Pac, Dre, and Suge, were worried that them beating up Mark Bell would later get them in trouble, as Dre and Suge were on probation and Pac was out on bail, so they could have all been sent to prison if Mark Bell had sued them. And Dre was sick and tired of that lifestyle. He didn't want to go to jail again. A day later, on December 16th, Snoop and the Dogg Pound flew to New York to shoot the music video for the song New York, New York, off the Dogg Pound album Dog Food. The Notorious B.I.G. got on the radio on Hot 97 and informed the city about Snoop, the Dogg Pound, and Tupac doing a music video in Brooklyn. Biggie, for whatever reason, thought that it was a Tupac music video, even though he wasn't even there. He said, "Red Hook, Brooklyn, stand up. Tupac and the Dogg Pound are shooting a video in Brooklyn right now." New Yorkers felt disrespected by them coming to their city to potentially diss New York during the East-West hip-hop rivalry. And Biggie felt that way too. Like, how dare they come here when they're dissing us? And then they shot at Snoop and the Dogg Pound's trailer. The song was originally going to be a dedication to New York prior to the shooting. The Notorious B.I.G. called up the Hot 97 radio station with Funkmaster Flex and instigated the incident. According to Snoop Dogg, Biggie was the one who called the shots on him. The trailer got riddled with bullets and Snoop and the Dogg Pound almost got hit. After flying back to LA, they told everyone what happened. Pac and Suge were heated. After that, Snoop, the Dogg Pound, and Pac were in F New York mode and saw New York as their enemy. They went to the studio and recorded the New York diss song NY87. Dre, on the other hand, didn't really care about what happened. He still didn't see New York as his enemy, and he didn't think that Biggie was at fault, which of course infuriated Tupac even more. He really viewed him as an egotistical backstabber. Again, Dre was getting tired of all the violence and drama. He wanted to focus on business and collaborate with artists on the East Coast, which Pac of course had a problem with, because at that point in time he was ready to attack any rapper from New York. Dre's team, meaning Sam Snead, Jay Flex, and the group Street Scholars, felt the same way as Dre and viewed the East Coast as their allies, but they were really the only ones on the entire label, so they became outsiders. Those people were the only ones that weren't gang related. Sam Snead, the guy who co-produced Dre's songs Natural Born Killers, Keep Their Heads Ringing, and a few others on the cancelled Helter Skelter album, is from Pittsburgh. Dr. Dre's ghostwriter Jay Flex is from Ohio. They also had a group called Street Scholars, which included Sharif, aka Killer Ben, who's originally from Brooklyn, Drama, who's from Queens, and Jay Boogie, who's from Jersey. So the people in Dre's team are all from the Midwest and the East Coast. The people on Death Row saw them as outsiders and always tried to intimidate them. Jay Flex had a problem with that. Just like Dre, he didn't like how Tupac and the Outlaws were dissing the East Coast. Jay Flex confronted them and said, "How you people is talking ish about the East Coast people and y'all from back east? Like, I don't get it. I'm not on that bandwagon ish." Meaning he didn't want to be part of the East-West feud and go at other coasts. It was mainly the gang members and Tupac's clique who wanted to go to war with the East Coast. Suge and the security on Death Row were members of the Mob Piru, which Tupac wanted to be a part of. Snoop, the Dogg Pound, and Nate Dogg were all Crips. Dre and his team, meaning Sam Snead, Jay Flex, and the Street Scholars, didn't want to join any of those gangs and tried to stay away from them. They just wanted to make music, that's it. Just like Dre. Tupac then thought, alright, if you want to stay neutral, then that's cool. But you can't rep the East Coast while you're on Death Row. Just like wearing the wrong colors in certain neighborhoods is seen as provocation for gang members, repping the East Coast in front of Pac and his people was seen as treason and a reason to fight. because that's exactly what happened at the K&M Studios when Jay Flex's friend Sharif, aka Killer Ben, was recording his vocals for his song and said, "It's Brooklyn in the house," just when the people from Death Row came in the room. Tupac was of course pissed. Like, how the hell can Dre's people say "it's Brooklyn in the house" after Snoop Dogg and the Dog Pound got shot at in Brooklyn? And how are these people still on Death Row? Jay Flex and Jay Boogie then went into a different studio to listen to some music. Sharif and Jay Boogie both had dreads at the time. So the people from Pac's camp who saw him told everybody that a guy from Dre's camp said, "It's Brooklyn in the house." Tupac then wanted his outlaws to go beat them up. Pac told the outlaws, "These New York dudes are talking slick. They're in the other studio." He wanted them to go jump them. The outlaws then went to the other studio, and Napoleon started beating on Jay Boogie, thinking that it's Sharif, the guy who actually said "it's Brooklyn in the house." Jay Flex, who was sitting right next to Jay Boogie, was like, "Oh hell no." He jumped up and tried to fight the outlaws. Big Syke then went at Jay Flex and managed to overpower him. They were clearly outnumbered and more members of the outlaws came in. Jay Boogie somehow managed to fight his way out of the room. Jay Flex, on the other hand, was getting punched in the head from all directions. The producer Butter, who later left Death Row to produce the Aftermath album with Dre, then tried to help Jay Flex but was held back by Tupac saying, "Don't get in it, homie, don't get in it." Jay Flex then saw Pac and wanted to fight him. Then the security came in and the outlaws ran out. Jay Flex then went outside and made it to the parking lot. Suge Knight then ran to him and asked, "What the F happened?" To which Jay Flex responded, "I don't know, man, but them people just jumped me. But you can bring all them people out one at a time, and we can get down. Pac too." Suge wanted to iron things out, but Jay Flex didn't want to have anything to do with them anymore. That was actually the last time he saw Tupac. Him and the others informed Dre about it, saying it ain't about the music anymore, and that things are getting out of control. That they can't even work on music without having to worry about getting into fights with the rest of the people from Death Row. Dre was getting more and more annoyed with the label, because this was now the second ghostwriter leaving Death Row. Dre can't make music without ghostwriters. Suge was merging gangbanging with the business, replacing professional security guards with gang members, who were all living better than the artists on Death Row. According to the singer Jewel, they were exploiting artists and spending more money on girls and gang members than the people who were actually bringing in the money. Suge's girls were getting houses and cars, could spend as much money as they wanted, while the artists on Death Row were putting in all the work while only getting pocket money in exchange. Dre and Jay Flex were under the impression that them treating Dre's artists badly was to say F you to Dre. And Dre was apparently scared of having meetings with Suge, especially in Compton, where Smart Pyru homies are from. On December 19th, him and Pac did an interview together on MTV with Bill Bellamy, and were asked about the song California Love, the work Dre did for Tupac's upcoming album All Eyes on Me, and overall about their relationship. And you could just see by Tupac's body language how uncomfortable he felt when Dre came in. Before Dre was there, he was all calm and relaxed and in a good mood. Then Dre comes in and Pac kinda turns away from him, looking bored and out of place, as if he doesn't want to hear anything that comes out of Dre's mouth, scratching his head, neck and beard. Dre was then asked about the studio session he had with Tupac. Instead of answering, he redirected the question to Pac, who was then forced to lie and make it look like the two are best friends and a perfect team, telling the interviewer how good of a producer and how much of a genius Dre is, even though he didn't really feel that way, which he later admitted in a different interview.
I've been producing the beat like on my album. I'm gonna get doing the beat, and Dre was getting the credit, and I gotta go at MTV and be like, yeah, he did that. No, he ain't do it.
As you can hear, he was pretty upset about Dre always getting credit for work that other people did. In the MTV interview, he even joked about Dre telling him to get his quote-unquote trail ass to Dr. Dre's studio.
Go ahead. Like that. When Rail ass in the studio. Nah. But alright. Nah. How did it work out though? How y'all went in there, and I'm gonna tell you, man, honestly, it's a sight to see Dr. Dre in the studio. You know, I'm gonna tell you this for the world. Dre don't hop up in this. He got his own studio at home. He don't even kick it with regular rappers in the studio.
Pac then explains how Dre doesn't even spend time with quote-unquote regular rappers in the studio, basically humbling himself and calling himself a small, irrelevant rapper compared to the giant Dr. Dre. Even though Pac was already a platinum artist, he didn't join Death Row hoping that Dre will make him famous. They were both established and well-respected artists, but Dre would still not pay him a visit in the studio, as if he doesn't even care about him being part of the family, and as if he has no interest in seeing the new superstar on his label work. And he didn't even care about the guy who was about to take his label to the next level, the guy who's about to be the highest selling rapper in the world, and the guy who will put Death Row back on top. Suge, on the other hand, often came to the studio to listen to Tupac and what he has been working on, ready to give feedback and to make sure that the quality is on point. Dre, the musical genius and the guy who was always listed as the executive producer of every album released on Death Row prior to All Eyes on Me, did not care about Tupac enough to sit in the studio with him to listen to his music. Instead, he let the other co-owner, Suge Knight, a guy who's not even a real producer and has zero clue about music, sit there with Pac and give him feedback. That's why only Suge Knight was listed as the executive producer on the album. And Pac, of course, was mad at him for that. He was supposed to get feedback and support from Dre, not from Suge. How do you even manage to have a non-producer as the one and only executive producer of the biggest album on your label, while you as the quote-unquote best producer in the world and owner of the label do absolutely nothing? Suge was slowly taking full control of the label, and career-wise, Dre felt like Pac and Snoop were replacing him as the superstar and main priority on the label, due to them having albums on the way and Dre having to give away his hits to others. Like mentioned earlier, California Love was supposed to be the equivalent of Nothing But a G-Thang for his next album, meaning the song that makes the album worth releasing. Dre felt like this is what the future of the label has to offer for him. Tupac will get all the shine and Dre will be in his shadow. Just like how they degraded him to a feature guest and wrote featuring Dr. Dre in a small font size on the cover of the California Love single, which has Tupac's gigantic logo on it. The release of California Love only benefited Tupac, cause his album came out 2 months later, while Dre is supposed to wait until the end of '96. But then he would put an old song that everyone already knows about on his album, when all the hype dies down and people don't view California Love as the main selling point of the album. So the best song on the album is something that's already off the charts, something that the people already got tired of, cause they're expecting something new on that level. The song already came out as a single and then on Pac's album, so why would you want to hear it a third time a year later? Tupac had completely ruined Dre's comeback, and now he's going to outshine him for the entirety of '96. While Suge will most likely ask Dre again to give away some of his bangers, just because Tupac is the biggest thing in hip-hop right now. Cause think about it, Pac is in the studio recording almost a handful of bangers a day, while Dre is forced to make songs at home at a very slow pace, since he doesn't like going to Can-Am Studios anymore because of the heavy gang presence, and Suge scaring away all the people that Dre wants to work with. And by the time he finally has a hit, Suge tries to convince him to give the song to someone else. Before that, Dre was in control of who gets what, and in which direction the label should go. But now it was Suge who was in control of everything. He made the decisions on when and where to spend money, who to sign, who to beef with, who and what to prioritize, who to promote, etc. Dre also felt like Suge was corrupt, financially dishonest, and out of control. And now with Pac becoming Suge's right-hand man, Dre thought that things would only go downhill from here, since both Suge and Pac are like-minded troublemakers and hotheads. There was no voice of reason there to stop them. Dre was seen and treated like the odd guy, quote-unquote sitting in his mansion all day, all lazy doing nothing, when everyone else is in war mode. Pac was frustrated with Bad Boy Entertainment putting the East Coast back on top due to the artists on Death Row being so lazy and slow that they got left behind and lost their position in the game. Pac always complained that Dre needs the whole year to make one song. He thought that it's only a matter of time until Death Row becomes obsolete and left behind by other companies if everyone continues to adapt to Dre's pace. The reason why it took Dre so long to make one song, according to Snoop, was because of how Suge changed the atmosphere at Death Row, and because of how he was getting thugs out of jail and giving them jobs at the company. People were getting beaten up in the studio, regardless of how important they were to Dre. Cause Dre in '95 needed writers, co- and ghost producers and his team to make music. But these people were getting treated like dirt over there, constantly getting beaten up and threatened, and the East Coast West Coast beef was becoming more and more of a problem, which made Suge and his people become more and more radical. He hired more and more gang members to protect him. Dre was worried not only about the future of his label, but also about his own safety. Who should he worry about more? The people who became enemies of Death Row? The unpredictable gang members who intimidated Dre's crew? The police who only need to find one little reason to throw him back in jail? Or his partner Suge Knight, who's getting out of control? There are countless stories of rappers and producers getting beaten up on Death Row for the smallest reasons. What if Suge tries to do the same thing to Dre? To get him under his control like everyone else? Cause he had already made his homies beat up artists in front of him, without Dre being able to do anything about it. According to Michelle Lay, Suge was frustrated with Dre because he couldn't make him come to the studio. Pac was a workaholic, and with him they could make more music in just a couple of weeks than Dre did during all his years on Death Row. Suge, who only cared about money, loved Pac's way of working, thinking that if everyone on Death Row was working just as hard and just as fast as Pac, they would be able to sell millions every month and drop hit after hit, instead of only dropping one project per year, like Dre wanted to do. Cause Dre wanted to make sure that the quality of the work is consistent. His approach was slowing down the whole company, especially with Suge signing more and more people. Cause releasing 1 or 2 albums per year is fine if you only have like 2 artists on the label, but even before Suge started signing people to the company, they already had over a dozen artists who wanted to drop albums, and all of them were waiting for Dre's approval. Almost none of the albums they worked on ended up getting released. Dre didn't really care about releasing all those albums. He wanted to focus on himself. Suge then realized that they didn't really need Dre to make music, cause they had all the money in the world to get faster working producers. All Eyes on Me, for example, only had 1 Dre beat. Suge really thought that most of the producers who worked on the album were better than Dre, so he was kinda putting the pressure on him. Like, look, all these producers made 50 beats while you haven't even finished one, making it seem like Dre is replaceable, that they will just release music without him, even though Dre's dream was to own a company where he's in full control of what is being released, so that the whole game gets this image of him being a hip-hop god who never disappoints and always drops the best music out there. Every album changes the game. That's what Dre wanted, focus on a small amount of people and a small amount of albums. Suge, on the other hand, put quantity over quality. He tried to motivate Dre into working faster. Come on, man, you need to come at this and this date. And Dre was like, man, I work at my own pace. I work alone. Dre felt like the respect Suge had for him as a musical genius and producer was lost, that he didn't trust in Dre's way of working. Suge had so much faith in Pac that he chose him over his partner Dre, and did what Pac thought was best for the label. Pac didn't even know how to run a company. Just like Suge, he was trying to give everyone record deals and throw money out the window, like later on when they wanted to start Death Row East and Machiavelli Records. Dre wouldn't have signed any of those artists cause they wouldn't have benefited the company.
Next year, Death Row gonna start printing our own money. Cause we making so much, we need to start printing our own money. It's gonna be me and Suge on a $100 bill like this. Me, Suge, and Dot Move, we're gonna be in a $100 bill like this.
Dre and Pac were like polar opposites. Pac was extroverted and hyperactive, loved making music while partying in the studio with over a dozen people. Dre, on the other hand, was the more introverted and focused artist that could only work when he's alone and in peace, without random people running around in the studio. And if you look at the pictures of their studio session together, you can see how Dre is standing out from the rest of them. Everyone is partying and walking around with drinks in their hands, while Dre is sitting there focused. Working with Pac and his homies might have been a headache for him. Pac loved being in the studio with like 20 people. In that type of environment, he could make one song after another. Dre, on the other hand, hated that. Pac and Suge had changed the work environment at K&M Studios. Dre preferred working alone, sitting in a studio where there's not much talking going on. Fully focused, making refinements, re-listening to the same song over and over again to find things to improve, and to put it out in the best form possible. It was hard for him to work with 20 people in the studio while everyone is partying and having fun. It was irritating to him. Random people walking in and out the studio while Dre's trying to work. That's why he preferred working at home, where he's in full control of who can come to visit him, over working at K&M Studios. You can't tell what was going through Dre's mind at the time, but Dre most likely hadn't made his final decision yet to leave the label. He probably saw it more as a plan B, just in case. But back then, he had informed Jimmy Iovine, the president of Interscope Records, about it, who at the time tried to do everything he could to prevent a falling out between Dre and Suge. He wanted them to continue, saying that things will improve, and that he should focus on his album. Around the same time, Michelle A's alcohol addiction got out of control again. She already had a case for driving under the influence and wasn't allowed to drive, which again was one of the reasons why she depended on Suge coming to her rescue and bringing groceries and diapers when Dre wasn't there. She was begging Dre to come help her fix her drug problem, but it only led to arguments. Dre supposedly didn't even care about their kids. Suge was there when she needed him, and got her into rehab at Betty Ford to get clean. According to Reggie Wright, she was there twice between 95 and 96. And according to Michelle A, she was gone for about 2 months, which doesn't really make sense as there's footage of her at parties, photo shoots, studio sessions and concerts at different dates between December 95 and February 96. So her time at Betty Ford's couldn't have been that long. But her being away until early January gave Dre the ability to take the secret relationship with Nicole to the next level. He could spend more time with her and didn't need to care about Michelle A. Nicole then divorced her husband Sadil and got engaged with Dre that same month, even though Dre was engaged to Michelle A and hadn't told her anything about it.
Damn.
According to Dre, she was part of the reason why he felt ashamed of his lifestyle. He wanted to stop calling women the B-word, and overall felt like he had to move on from that image. The artists on Death Row were known for their misogynistic lyrics. Nicole made him change his style into what people would later call mature rap or grown-up rap. He wanted a brand new image and get away from everything Death Row was representing. That's the reason why he made the song Been There Done That. The whole time Dre was dating Nicole, he was technically still living in the same house in Calabasas with Michelle A, since they were supposed to get married. Michelle A had left all her stuff there while she was in rehab and had no clue that Dre was dating other women. Some say that Dre was fed up with Michelle A not getting her drug and alcohol problem under control, thinking that he could never have a happy marriage with her. Michelle A would call Suge Knight every day from Betty Ford, begging him to get her out of there, saying that she feels better now and that she's clean. Shortly after New Year, Suge and the Death Row head of security, Reggie Wright, went to pick her up in a limo. According to Reg, Suge and Michelle A were having sex in the back of the limo while they were driving back home. He could hear the rumbling in the back and feel the car shaking. Dre didn't know about any of it. On January 6, 1996, the Death Row family performed at the Louisiana Superdome in New Orleans. It was supposed to be a memorial tribute to Eazy-E, the rival of the label Death Row, who had passed away a year prior on March 26. Tupac, Michelle A, Snoop, the Dog Pound, Suge, the Death Row head of security, Reggie Wright, and Suge's right-hand man, Buntry, all attended the event. Dre was the only one who didn't come, even though he was the closest to him. Reason why he didn't attend was because he was sick. Suge, Reggie, Michelle A, and Buntry decided to fly back home early by taking a private jet, leaving back Pac, Snoop, and the Dog Pound. And that's when Michelle A told Suge that Pac was trying to smash her. And again, the reason why Michelle A told him that is because she had a secret relationship with him. Everyone assumed that she was trying to start a fight or a conflict between
Always damn one every damn time. Damn, she didn't even look that damn good.
Suge and Pac. According to Daz Dillinger from the Dog Pound, Suge approached Tupac later on and said, "Man, you gotta leave my B-word alone." And Pac then supposedly tried to more or less stay away from her. Daz is fully convinced that Michelle A and Tupac slept together in New Orleans, where they had their show, cause she would always touch his chest and head as if he's her boyfriend. The same way she tried to get with Montel Jordan in '95. He said Michelle A was trying to sleep with Tupac so that he puts her on more of his songs and helps her to make a comeback. Because she hadn't dropped an album since 1989 and Dre wasn't helping her at all. He only cared about his own music. Pac, on the other hand, tried to help wherever he could. He was in the studio almost every day and was willing to work with everyone on Death Row. That's why she supposedly tried to get close with him, to revive her own career. But Reggie Wright thinks that it's very unlikely that the two slept together, since Suge would have dropped her from the label. Although this is the same woman who chose to cheat on Dre with his business partner, knowing that the moment Dre finds out, it'll all be over.
Oh yeah,
and Suge was only seeing Michelle A as one of his side chicks at the time, cause he was already married to a woman named Sharitha and was sleeping with one girl after another, promising them that he'll make them famous. That's where a lot of the money on Death Row went, and Dre supposedly had a problem with that. Reggie Wright also denied that Suge got mad when hearing that Tupac tried to sleep with Michelle A. Suge supposedly went to Reggie and said, "Yeah man, Pac messing ish up. He's trying to holler at Michelle A. If Dre find that out, he's gonna mess ish up. Pac shouldn't have did that. That'll mess up things between us and Dre." Suge and Reggie were laughing about it since Suge was already sleeping with Michelle A, so he was just being sarcastic. So Reg told him, "What do you mean if Dre find out about Tupac hitting on her? Dre gonna have a problem with it when he find out you messing with her." Michelle A might have tried to make Suge jealous by telling him the thing about Tupac, to see if he really cares for her. Shortly after that incident, the entire Death Row family did a photo shoot for the February issue of the Vibe magazine cover. It was supposed to represent the quote-unquote absolute pinnacle moment, top of mountain for Death Row. At the time, they felt unstoppable. The impression you had from the label was that it's a big, strong and healthy family, where everyone gets along with each other and treats each other like their brothers and sisters. In the magazine, Dre was asked how he feels about Suge, and Dre gave him credit for coming up with the plan for Death Row in 1991. He said they are 50-50 partners. You know, me and Suge, we like brothers and ish. So in January '96, Dre still saw Suge as his brother. But if this photo shoot had happened a few weeks later, Dre wouldn't have been on it. Like for example, if it was the March '96 issue. Because Dre left in February, and in March he already formed his new label. There was a part in the interview that raised a few eyebrows. Dre was asked if Death Row would exist without him. His expression went blank. He began to speak, but stopped himself to think for a moment, as if he's confused or trying to hide his real thoughts. All the disagreements they had behind the scenes, and him thinking of the possibility of him starting his own label. His response was indirect. It's clear that he chose his words wisely, so that he doesn't accidentally infuriate his partner Suge, or come off as if there are indeed plans of him leaving the label. He said, "Wherever I am, whatever I do is going to be the bombish, and people are going to benefit from it. I don't know. There might be another Dr. Dre out there, somewhere." He then left uneasily. There are of course numerous ways to interpret this statement. The phrase, "wherever I am, whatever I do," could imply that Death Row ain't the only option for him. The part where he says, "people are going to benefit from it," could also have a double meaning behind it and be a jab at Suge, who was more or less using Dre before moving on to other artists once he had no more use for him. Although according to Reggie Wright, Suge never wanted Dre to leave the company. And the phrase after that, "there might be another Dr. Dre out there," could also have a double meaning behind it, since Dre was getting replaced by other producers, who Suge invited to come work with Death Row, thinking that they're better than Dre, just because they work faster. Daz was slowly taking over for him as well, and DJ Quick did the mixing for All Eyes on Me, even though that was Dre's job. Suge bringing a long list of producers to Death Row made a lot of people on the label stop caring about Dre's beats as much, cause they saw that they were able to make bangers without him. Even though we have to admit, the quality of Snoop's music without the help of Dr. Dre went downhill. His sophomore album The Dogfather was poorly received. Dr. Dre only produced the first 2 albums released on the label, which were The Chronic and Doggy Style. Suge repeatedly told Dre that he's taking too long, and that all the other producers are doing his job, that he's taking credit for what other people do, while Dre felt like everyone was benefiting from him. They also did an interview with Suge, and he seemed to be throwing subliminal shots at Dre about the credit that certain people got for work they didn't do, whether it's a beat they produced or lyrics they wrote for somebody else. They always accused Dre of not giving credit to his ghostwriters and ghost producers, so they could have indeed sent subliminal shots at each other.
Like if a person writes something, they should get paid for what they wrote. They should get the credibility saying they wrote it. If they produced it, they should get paid for producing it, and they should get paid, and their credibility for letting the world know they produced it.
He also said that in the past, quote unquote, a lot of record companies were built where people would pick the star, so that that person gets all the production credits from smaller producers, admitting that it was a mistake for Death Row and everyone else to do, knowing that they had done this in the past for Dre.
So that's a bad mistake for Death Row or anybody else to do. So my vision is to say, look, let all the little young guys know if they come to Death Row and they produce the track, they get their credibility, they get their money. Same thing with the artists. That's one vision we have, and that's what we're definitely doing right now.
Between 1992 and 95, Death Row only managed to put out 3 studio albums. Pac convinced Suge that they need to double, triple, and quadruple their efforts so that the album charts are filled with the projects from artists on Death Row. They wanted to leave a mark on the world by dominating the charts every month. With Dre being the head of the company, things were going way too slow, and that's why Suge tried to pressure him into working faster. After seeing no progress, he wanted to replace Dre with Tupac, even though Dre and Suge are 50-50 partners, and Suge technically can't replace him as they are equals. So he tried to use intimidation and pressure to get what he wants. In interviews, Suge explains how he planned to go from 1 album per year to releasing 10 albums annually. He wanted Death Row to grow into something as big as Sony and Warner Brothers. And with Dre making the decisions, they couldn't do that.
What we're gonna do for Death Row, we're gonna put out like about anywhere to 6 or 10 records out a year. Only time other people are able to sell records on our style is when we're gonna put a record out there. I want Death Row to be, which it will be, more like a Warner Brothers, Sony, a MCA, for we're gonna distribute other artists.
They interviewed Pac as well. And just like Dre, he dropped some statements in the February issue of the Vibe magazine that raised some eyebrows. He said, "The family part, to me, I'm not gonna be corny and be like everybody on Death Row love each other. It's not like that. Nobody has beef internally. And if we do, we handle it internally." This is Tupac openly admitting that in those 3 months he was on death row, he has already seen and was already involved in internal issues with people on death row. And these internal issues are relevant enough to address externally, meaning in interviews, but they are addressed indirectly, to not make the issue bigger than it already is. He was clearly alluding to the arguments and fights he had with Dre and his people, which Suge tried to handle. He said, "As for me and Suge, right now, as of today, we are the perfect couple. I can see this is what I've been looking for management-wise. He writes like I write. With Suge as my manager, I gotta do less." Things got a little heated between Michelle and Dr. Dre at the time. Dre was cheating on Michelle with Nicole, and Michelle was cheating on Dre with Suge, even though the two had been engaged for years. When Michelle came back from rehab, she moved back into Dre's house in Calabasas, without knowing that Dre was dating Nicole. I mean, Michelle was secretly meeting Suge as well, but the two acted like the relationship is still ongoing. Shortly afterwards, Dre, Michelle and Daz Dillinger's baby mama, Kenya Ware, went to a big party. They were all at Dre's mansion at first, before they all went their separate ways. Michelle and Kenya Ware drove to the party in a limo, did their makeup inside the vehicle, and were getting ready to have some fun. When they got out and walked inside the building, they saw Dr. Dre together with Nicole. The two ladies were wondering who that woman was. Dre then smiled and introduced her to everyone. "Hey you guys, I want to introduce you two to my new woman." "Your new woman?" Kenya asked. They were shocked and confused since they were together at Dre's house just 45 minutes ago.
You too, brother.
Dre basically introduced his new girlfriend to his fiancée. Michelle started crying and decided to leave the building. Kenya Ware then followed her and the two went back home. Dre and Nicole stayed and enjoyed the rest of the party. Michelle then moved back to her grandma, who was actually the one that kept telling her to just endure the abuse. The reason why she didn't leave him earlier. A few days later, Michelle broke into Dre's mansion by climbing through a window. She then noticed that Nicole had moved in, cause Dre had told her over the phone that his relationship with Nicole came to an end. So she broke into the house to collect evidence and to find out if Dre was lying. Nicole had thrown away all her stuff, like for example Michelle's baby portraits, which is kinda odd if you think about it, because that was Dre's child too. Why would he allow her to throw away pictures of his kids? Michelle then waited in the bedroom for them to come back, cause they were out dating. Dre and Nicole then came back and went straight to the bedroom where they found Michelle sitting on the bed. They were in shock. Michelle then went straight at Nicole, verbally attacking her because of the baby pictures. But Dre jumped in between, looking furious. Michelle then thought that he would once again try to punch her, but he was trying to look like a gentleman in front of Nicole, who he tried to convince that this gangster image is only an act to sell records. That he's actually the complete opposite of a wife-beater, cheater and misogynist. But Michelle understood that she had to go and just walked out. She then told everybody that she's single again and started working on her second album, which she wanted to call Single Black Female to spite Dre. Then on February 1st, she came to the studio where Tupac, Johnny J and Nancy Fletcher recorded the song Too Tight for MC Hammer, who Suge Knight signed to Death Row in '95.
The same to you.
Hammer was one of the biggest rappers in the early 90s, but he had fallen off in terms of popularity, status and overall quality in music. Now that Tupac was done working on his album, Suge wanted him to revive MC Hammer's career by writing the album Too Tight for him, which was supposed to be released on Death Row. So with Hammer, Pac and Snoop on the label and them getting prioritized, Dre had some serious competition on his label, which made him feel less and less important. To him it seemed like the three of them would get to release their albums before him. And now Michelle was working on her album too. Her and Pac got very close around that time. People noted how Michelle always touched Pac's chest and head, Others thought that she was trying to replace Dre with Pac. She also talked to Papa G that same day about her plans for her new album Single Black Female, which unfortunately never came out. But she was publicly telling everybody that it was over between her and Dre, and that she's single again.
Like a whole new person.
She had already a friends with benefits type of relationship with Suge since '94. It was like an on-off type of relationship since Suge had many mistresses next to his wife Sharitha, like Diddy's baby mama Misa Hilton, for example, and a whole bunch of other women who were trying to get a record deal by sleeping with Suge. He didn't care about her being engaged and having a kid with Dre, and Michelle A didn't care either since she had to tolerate Dre's infidelity this whole time. But then again, why did it have to be Dre's business partner Suge? The two people who were paying everybody's bills on the label. She knew that if Dre finds out about the affair, that the label would fall apart. A few days later, Dre tried to talk with Michelle A, saying that he wants to make it work, that he still loves her and wants to marry her. So Michelle A said, "Okay, but Nicole has to go. You have to get rid of her." Dre agreed and Michelle A moved back into the house again. It was now Nicole who had to move out. I guess Dre and Nicole had an argument and Dre got tired of her. Michelle A didn't throw away her stuff like Nicole did, so she was able to bring back all her stuff to her own place. Michelle A then told him that she'll leave him the first night Dre doesn't come home. That lasted for about 2 weeks until mid-February. While they were back together, Michelle A told Dre about all the things that Suge was mad about, things that he didn't like about Dre, and told her in private when they were sleeping together. So she was playing both sides, sleeping with both men, telling both of them what they thought of each other. Basically adding fuel to the fire by telling both sides what they would have never told each other face to face, without having to fear that the label might fall apart. Cause both Dre and Suge were hiding their frustrations and real feelings about one another to save the company. They both wanted Michelle A, and Suge wanted to bring Dre under his control. Without Michelle A's pillow talking, the relationship between Suge and Dre wouldn't have gotten to this point. Dre then started to wonder how Michelle A knew all these things, since no one else seemed to know about it. That's when Dre started to suspect that Michelle A and Suge were closer than he thought. That he wouldn't have told her all these things if the two weren't close like lovers. Maybe he came to the conclusion that the two had a relationship or an affair. But he later got confirmation by others working at Death Row that Michelle A and Suge had slept together while they were still engaged. That was the final straw. He told her that he's ready to move on from Death Row. He felt betrayed. Dre then went back to Nicole, signaled it to Michelle A by violating the agreements of him having to come home every night. And that was it. Michelle A understood that he's spending time with Nicole. She then moved out. Their relationship was over. By that time, Tupac's double album All Eyes on Me had already been released. And did crazy numbers. It came out on February 13th and sold 566,000 copies in the first week. It debuted at #1 on both the US Billboard 200 and the US top R&B and hip-hop album charts. Everyone was celebrating because they knew they had the biggest rapper in the world on their label. He easily outsold Biggie's Ready to Die. Suge was now fully convinced that Pac is the future of Death Row. He wanted to do everything he could to grow the label with Pac on board, so that he stays on Death Row forever. After her breakup with Dre, Michelle A and Suge once again got close. She started to badmouth Dre, telling Pac all the things Dre did to her while they were engaged. His problems with...
Oh my God, bro. Oh, hell no, man. What the fuck, man? Get your ass.
I ain't know all this shit. It's too much shit going on. The East Side with Biggie in them stories. These shit. God
alcohol,
damn.
Him being a cheater, him physically abusing her, his new fiancée, his plans of wanting to leave the label, and she also spread rumors of him being gay, saying that she caught him in bed with his best friend Bruce Williams. Tupac kept it to himself at first and wanted to do his research on it. but then later informed Suge about it and mentioned it in interviews after Dre infuriated Pac by making some comments in the Source magazine. More on that later. Around the same time, Michelle and Suge sneaked out to Malibu, where they stayed at a luxurious hotel together.
Oh, God damn,
she started pillow talking to Suge again, telling him about Dre wanting to leave the label. Mentioned all the issues he had with Suge and the company, saying that Dre felt like Suge was trying to control him, and that he wants to break free. So she was giving Suge a heads up. He didn't really want Dre to leave the label, but Tupac was always pointing things out that Dre did, which in his opinion...
They crazy. That crazy shit. I just thought about this shit. Faith fucked Biggie, fucked up Biggie and Tupac. Suge and Dre, his baby mama, damn, it's sticks and stone.
...opinion were wrong, or unfair, or bad for the company.
Shit crazy.
Prior to that, Suge and Dre had a great relationship. I mean, aside from the fact that Suge was occasionally sleeping with Dre's baby mama and fiancée Michelle, which is of course already a fair reason to stop working with him. But it was brought to Dre's attention at the very end, when him and Suge already had their issues with each other. Dre didn't get along with Pac much either. I mean, he just joined the label, jumped on the ship that Dre built with his own hands, and is now trying to tell Dre what he's allowed to do or where he can go with his own ship, while trying to create a rift between the two ship owners. He just came aboard after getting bailed out of prison and is now trying to take the helm of the ship, while treating Dre like a subordinate instead of a captain. And Suge was playing the middleman as if Tupac was one of the owners of the company. And Dre got tired of it, knowing that Suge is actually siding with Pac. Michelle told Suge everything that Dre always complained about, and also mentioned him wanting to reach out to Jimmy Iovine to ask for help. Suge got really upset, cause Dre never told him any of it during their meetings, and he also had a feeling that Dre was trying to avoid him. Suge then told Michelle some of the things he hated about Dre. Him being lazy, not being around when Pac and others made music, not being there for Snoop, etc. On February 17th, Tupac, Dr. Dre and Roger Troutman were supposed to perform the song California Love on Saturday Night Live. But according to Suge Knight, they first held a meeting in the Red Room at the K&M Studios, which was the recording facility of Death Row Records. They were getting ready to do the show. But Pac supposedly wanted to address something in front of Dr. Dre and Suge. Pac was like, "Go on, get it out the way." Walked over to Suge, closed his eyes and put his chin back. He said, "Go on, hit me on the chin and knock me out. Because if I gotta get in trouble for this, let me get it out the way." Suge was confused and thought Pac was just joking around. Didn't really understand why Pac wanted Suge to knock him out. So Suge said, "Man, say what's on your mind." To which Pac responded, "I'm not doing the song with Dre." Meaning he doesn't want to perform the song California Love on Saturday Night Live with Dr. Dre. You just go on and get it over with. Again, asking Suge to punch him for that. Suge then said, "What you mean? We're getting ready to do Saturday Night Live, right?" And Pac said, "No, I'm not doing California Love with Dre. Because Dre is a sexual. Dre, use the F-slur." People in the room got quiet and confused. Suge then looked at Dre and thought he would say something slick, so that Pac will lose his temper and it will turn into a fight. According to Suge, Dre then looked at Pac and said, "First of all, I'm not a F-slur." "Okay, well then you're homosexual." Dre then said, "I'm not sexual. I'm bisexual." Pac then started yelling.
That was the worst of the sprint. Even if you not, why would you say that?
"I told you, I told you, I told you, you heard him say it. You heard him say he's a homosexual. He going around effing people in the ass." Dre then argued with Pac saying, "You stupid man." To which Pac responded, "Nah, you run around effing people in the ass." Dre then said, "Look, I'm sexual because I could F a B word in the ass. I'm sexual because I'm the one doing the catching and they the one doing the pounding. And Pac's...
I'll stop this whole goddamn stream. I ain't gonna lie, I don't hear no shit like that. Come on, twin. Look at that nigga's face. I ain't in this damn stream right now. The fuck they got going on?
Said, it's over. I'm not doing that California-ish with him in life. I'm tired of this. Suge then told Pac, stay right there. He told everyone they can exit. At the time, Suge didn't like how Pac embarrassed Dre in front of everybody. After people left the room, Suge then spoke to Pac in private and told him that he can just perform his half of California Love without Dre. He then made a phone call informing the people who run Saturday Night Live that Dre can't come and that Pac will perform California Love alone. And that's Suge's explanation on why Pac performed the song without Dre. Pac called Dre gay on numerous occasions, mentioned it in interviews, in recorded conversations with Suge, and then later on in songs. Dre later did an interview addressing all the gay rumors, saying that it's all a lie, and that Pac didn't even know him like that they weren't even close. Which does make sense since they only met a couple of times. It's not clear if the meeting actually took place. Suge is the only one who spoke on it, and he kept telling the same story again and again since 1996. Some people say that Dre didn't even come to the Saturday Night Live rehearsal, and that he didn't even plan on performing, letting Pac stand there all alone. This means that there's a possibility that the meeting did not take place, and that Pac confronting Dre was a lie. But it is true that Suge was upset about something.
Okay, we need to...
Because he reached out to Jimmy Iovine that day, saying that he wants to meet to talk about the future of Death Row. Suge then went to Jimmy Iovine, telling him that he's going to kill Dre. But Jimmy managed to calm him down, saying that they should try to get along to save the company.
I wanted to leave. I wanted to leave Death Row and everything that was accumulated. I didn't want anything following me. I'm done. I'm done.
Look, man, I can't do nothing with Dre. You're gonna have to take him off my hands. I can't. You take Dre. We want Dre out. And Jimmy was like, no, man, think about it. Trying to change Suge's mind. I think that's a mistake. What do you want me to do? How am I supposed to get involved in your business? You two are the owners. Interscope does not own Death Row. Suge was ready to replace Dre with Pac, cause the two were way closer. Two like-minded individuals who were always hanging out together and were both part of the Mob Piru gang. They also had the same goals and ambitions. Wanted to make as much money as possible in the shortest amount of time while destroying their enemies on the East Coast. Pac was the rap version of Suge. Everything Suge expected him to do, Pac could accomplish with ease. He could write his own lyrics within just minutes, sell the most units, help others on the label to make music, and make hits daily about any topics you can think of, without having to exploit writers and producers like his old partner Dre, who, despite all that, only made quote-unquote one song per year. Those were Suge's thoughts. He saw Pac as the greatest to ever do it. Someone who could fight his own wars and intimidate the whole rap scene. But Suge wouldn't have dared to talk to Dre personally and to tell him that he wants him gone. He was trying to use Jimmy Iovine for that, but neither of them could do anything about it. It was up to Dre to make that decision. So that's why Suge reached out to Jimmy, who ended the conversation by saying, I'll see what I can do. He informed Dre, asking him what he wants to do. Dre understood that there were only two options. Either try to sort things out with Suge, which would have meant that he would have to agree to all the terms on how Suge and Pac want to run the company, or he could just walk away from everything. Dre later decided that it's better for him to just leave everything behind. His attorney, Peter Paterno, advised him to sell his share of the company. But Dre refused, as he didn't want to deal with all the headache that comes with it. They would have probably spent the next years fighting in court, but Dre didn't want to waste any more time. and didn't want anything to follow him. Jimmy wanted him to stay at Death Row. He said, "Don't break up the Beatles, you keep the band together." And Dre said, "Nah, I can't do it. There's nothing I can do about it." According to Tupac's chief engineer Tommy D, engineers on Death Row were getting beaten up and punched in the face for making mistakes. Sometimes they were taken to the back room, where they could beat them up without anyone being able to interfere. They also had dogfights and used dogs to intimidate engineers. Once they even beat up the assistant engineer for messing up the food order. A lot of people refused to work for Death Row under those working conditions, and Dre was tired of that.
When I saw an engineer,
why you need to do it there back then?
We were running the tape too far, you know. That was like, okay, what are we doing here?
Everything just changed. It became a lot more violent. Engineers are getting beat down, random people are getting beat down and shot at in the studio, in the mic booth, all kinda ish. There are still untold stories about what Suge's people did to others in front of Dre and Snoop, which they don't even want to talk about on camera, as it would get them in trouble. The DOC, for example, saw a guy get beaten up right in front of him. The victim was pulling him by his pants, and his blood got everywhere. One of the reasons why he chose to leave the company early in '94. The only artist on the label who had no problem with all the beatdowns was Tupac. He thought all the violence was necessary and got along with all the gang members on Death Row. But yeah, Dre now understood that Suge wants him gone, and that they wouldn't stop bothering him until he leaves. That same day, Jimmy Iovine invited Dre to his house, so that they can continue this conversation while having dinner. Tupac's chief engineer Tommy D was there too, and he confirmed that this meeting took place at Jimmy's house, right when Tupac performed California Love on Saturday Night Live, which means it could have technically taken place after the alleged meeting with Suge and Tupac. According to Tommy, they were sitting there eating dinner when they were cutting a deal. Dre told everybody that he's officially leaving Death Row to create his own company. For that, he asked Jimmy Iovine for help. Dre also said that he wanted to take the original version of California Love with him, to release it on his new label. Cause again, Pac only got the remix version, which landed on All Eyes on Me. Tupac was later upset that the original version of California Love didn't land on the album, and Dre didn't even get to use it later on, as he would leave the label 4 days after the release of All Eyes on Me, meaning on February 17th, when Dre spoke to Jimmy Iovine. During the meeting, Dre told him that the relationship with Suge ain't working anymore, even though a month prior in the Vibe magazine, he said that they're as close as brothers. Jimmy agreed that it was probably the best thing to just go their separate ways. After hearing from Suge that he wants to kill him, Jimmy realized that he had to do something. He's not losing Ish, so why not? I wouldn't have went anywhere else. I got mad love for Interscope. Me and Jimmy are cool. He pays what he says he's going to pay, and does what he says he's going to do. And that's all I ask for. Don't shoot me, no BS, Dre said. According to Dre's best friend Bruce Williams, him and Dre would go back and forth to Jimmy Iovine's house trying to figure out what to do. Then finally, Dre called a meeting at his house to inform everyone that's close to him that he's leaving Death Row. Bruce started Aftermath with Dre together. At first, the label was supposed to be called Black Market, but there was already a company in San Francisco with that same name, and they wanted $1 million for it. So they came up with the name Aftermath, and Bruce then became the vice president of operations. He will play a huge role later on in Death Row's smear campaign against Dre. Suge then got a call a couple days later from Jimmy Iovine, saying that Dr. Dre wants to leave the label and start his own company. Suge then said, "Jimmy, if you want him, he can go with you, but he has to leave with his shirt on his back. I ain't no pimp, but I know about him. I never seen a pimp let a mother effing hoe leave and he tell the prostitute, take the jewelry, take your clothes, and don't forget the money." At the end of the day, everybody knows Dre's a hoe. At that point in time, Suge was okay with Dre leaving the label, because he felt like he had used them up already, and that it was time to rebrand and reshape the label, with Pac becoming the new face of it, instead of someone who quote-unquote doesn't write his own songs and doesn't produce his own beats. He wanted someone who doesn't take credit for what other people did, while quote-unquote contributing little to nothing to the label. A lazy alcoholic who does one song a year and can't get anything accomplished on his own, compared to a guy like Tupac who's able to write and record 3 to 5 hits per day. And he was also selling more than anyone else at the time. He was the most hyped person in hip-hop. Pac had more adaptation skills, was more willing to take risks, was quote-unquote military-minded, and fit the gangster image that Death Row had more than Dre. He felt very comfortable around gang members, Bloods especially, the Ma Piru, which Suge and the Death Row security was a part of, and also with the Crips, people like Snoop, Daz, Corrupt, and Nate Dogg. Dre didn't feel comfortable around all those gangsters. At first he was fine with Suge using them in the background to get things done, like when they surprised Eazy-E at the hotel, and wanted him to free Dre and the DOC from their contracts. But now those same gangsters and shooters who were operating in the background came to the forefront. They were at the studio all the time, getting money from Suge for nothing basically. They were actually getting paid more than some of the artists on Death Row. Suge saw them as the security of Death Row. Jimmy Iovine always tried to convince him to replace them with real security guards, but he didn't listen to anyone. Gangbanging, bullying other artists in the game, declaring war on other labels, and reigniting coastal beefs, that was all Death Row was known for at the time. The image of them being tyrants in the game overshadowed the arts and what they could bring to the table musically, since they were in the news and on TV more for their crimes and scandals than for their music. And even the music brought a whole bunch of drama with it. There were bounties put on people's heads, gang wars, shootings, beatings, killings, all in a very short amount of time. Not only that, but the biggest people on the label also had cases to deal with, like Snoop's murder case and Pac's assault case. Suge and Dre were also on probation, and most of the security were doing shady things behind the scenes. Some of them just got out of prison, and others were about to go in. Those are just a few of the reasons why Dre thought Death Row was going downhill. Even though Dre is viewed as one of the fathers of gangster rap and put all the things Suge and his homeboys embodied into his lyrics, the label became too gangsterish for his taste. One of the fathers of gangster rap distancing himself from the gangster image. Suge and Pac thought that Dre was hypocritical. How can you make songs like Nothing But a G-Thing, rap about guns, violence, and your lifestyle as a gangster, drop one gangster rap anthem after another on the most gangster label out there which you yourself founded, and then turn around and say that it's not the direction you want to go? Pac still had this image of Dre being a quote-unquote studio gangster due to him spending so much time with Eazy-E before going to prison and signing to Death Row. Eazy-E was already calling him out for being a fake gangster. He was actually the one who made the term studio gangster popular. And again, Eazy-E wanted Tupac to diss Dre and expose him for being a fake gangster. That was always in the back of his head, even after he got signed to Death Row. That's why Pac and Suge found it amusing that Dre was distancing himself from them. After all the things Suge, his people, and the artists on Death Row did for him when he was stuck on Ruthless Records, and when he wanted to make a strong comeback on a different label. Dre found out how Suge originally funded the label. He got the money from a kingpin called Pat Johnson, who was selling large amounts of cocaine before getting incarcerated. So it was basically drug money. They also bullied artists into signing over the rights to their music, like Vanilla Ice for example. The label was built on tyranny, exploitation, and crime, and Dre wanted to get away from that. For Dre, it looked like Death Row was about to fall apart. thought that if the cops ever find out about Death Row's secrets, it'll be all over for the label and its artists. That's why ever since he came out of jail, he thought of a plan B. He tried staying until the very end, and now he had no other choice but to leave. Suge didn't want Dre to think that the label needs him in order to be successful, so that's why they didn't even try to sort things out.
For me, I'm not trying to be an asshole about it, but it couldn't be a better position for me. I mean, Death Row is a multi-million-dollar company that have a catalog of hits on top of hits, and I still own all the masters.
Dre was not signed to Death Row. He was co-owning the company, so there was no record contract. But he was always signed to Interscope and Jimmy. On the phone, Suge told Jimmy Iovine that Dre has to leave without taking any of the songs or the artists with him. And Jimmy said that's fine, meaning that Dre was ready to walk away with nothing.
I appreciate y'all.
The whole time Suge was earning more money from the label than Dre did, even though they were 50-50 partners. Suge had a garage full of cars while Dre only had 2. Dre knew that Suge was screwing him over, just like Jerry Heller and Eazy-E did on Ruthless Records. Once he got his own label Aftermath, that's when he started making hundreds of millions of dollars. So with Suge screwing him over, Dre knew that he could make more money by himself, even if he had to start from zero, and give up on his entire catalog. It was a huge risk to leave everything behind and to start from scratch. He wouldn't be able to make any more money from all the songs and albums on Death Row, meaning from The Chronic, Doggy Style, all the hits, all the songs he produced. All the money Dre would have earned ended up going directly to Suge, and Dre was fine with it. He signed over the rights and got a check from Jimmy Iovine to start his own label, with Interscope being the distributor. His ghostwriter Jay Flex was down to leave Death Row as well, but couldn't because of his contracts. Dre told him that he's going to take care of it, so Jay Flex continued to write songs for him, like for example Been There Done That, which later ended up on the Aftermath album. The producer and rapper Sam Snead wanted to stay at Death Row for a while, until he has put out all the music he recorded, cause he felt like he was just about to blow. He had recorded his debut album Street Scholars on Death Row, and didn't want to scrap it.
I appreciate that, man.
Jay Flex told him that Tupac and his people jumped him, and that the same thing could happen to him as well, because he's cool with Dre.
You know what I'm saying?
Sam Snead didn't know that Suge and Pac had an issue with him. The night after Snoop was acquitted of murder on February 20th, meaning 3 days after the alleged meeting in the Red Room where Dre and Pac had an argument, Suge wanted to throw a party with the Death Row family at his favorite restaurant, the straight out of The Godfather Monty's Steakhouse. But before the celebration, they wanted to hold a meeting at the recording facility of Death Row Records, which again was Can-Am Studios. According to Kurt Cobain, who was a producer working for Death Row at the time, the purpose of the meeting
got his name from him. Oh no, we ain't gonna slap head that. We just didn't hit it.
Was to announce Dre's departure from the label and to turn everybody on Death Row against him, because all the artists on the label were left in limbo and didn't know which side to take.
Damn, Baby D.
Since it was Dre who made most of them famous. They all joined the label because of Dre, but Suge was the one who's paying everyone's bills. They all knew that leaving the label would mean that they're left with nothing and have to start from scratch just like Dre. And most of them didn't even get paid for all their work yet.
Damn.
Some of them also had albums on the way which needed to be released. And Dre most likely wouldn't have signed them, cause he started caring less and less about them over the years. But these people were all left in confusion, as Dre was the genius behind Death Row's success. Him leaving created a rift within the label. You had those who secretly wanted to leave and join Dre's label, which again was impossible, since Suge wouldn't let any of them go. And then you had those who picked the side of Suge and saw Dre as a traitor. The purpose of the meeting was to ask people, which side are you on? Snoop, the Lady of Rage, and the Dog Pound were leaning more towards Dre, but they couldn't leave or share their opinion. Because not only would they lose everything, But they are also just a minority on the label, with Suge and the Ma Piru being in full control and making the majority. So everyone had to follow Suge for now, until the opportunity opens up for them to leave the label without putting their careers at risk. Suge also wanted to make clear that everything is in control, and that Dre leaving the company is actually a good thing. Prior to the meeting, Jay Flex got a call from Sam Snead, asking him if he should go. Jay Flex actually warned him and said it might be an ambush, since him and his team got beaten up by Pac's outlaws a few weeks prior. So he told him multiple times, don't go there. If they ask where I'm at, I'm out of town. I'm not going back up in that mother effer ever. But Sam Snead told him that he ain't scared and that he'll go there. Turns out that the whole meeting was about him. They wanted to take out the anger they had for Dre on someone close to him.
Damn.
They had already beaten up Jay Flex and the others. Now it was Sam Snead's turn. He had actually produced the song Blueberry off the Dogfather album, for which he wanted to get paid, even though Snoop had helped Sam Snead with his album Street Scholars for free, and now Sam is asking for money. So some of the people on Death Row disliked him just for that, but there was more. He was also cool with Dre and the people Tupac and the Outlaws beat up a few weeks prior. Plus there was something else that Suge wanted to address at the meeting, which Sam Snead didn't know about. He had no clue what was going on. So Sam Snead came to the K&M studios and went directly to the cafeteria where the producer Kurt Cobain, Lady of Rage, and a couple of other people were talking about music. The Lady of Rage asked Sam Snead for beats, and then Tupac came in. Him and Sam Snead made eye contact and then started talking like it was all good. Sam Snead then said, "Man, I got some beats for you, Pac." To which Pac responded, "Is that right?" Yeah. And everything was fine at first. Then 10 minutes later, they went to the Red Room for the meeting. And Daz Dillinger's baby mama, Kenya Ware, wasn't allowed to come in and had to stay outside. In the Red Room, you had the Dog Pound, Nate Dogg, OFTB, Kurt Cobain, the Lady of Rage, the group 6 Feet Deep, Michelle A, Tupac, the Outlaws, Suge's homeboys, and also the producer Butter, who Tupac held back when the Outlaws beat up Jay Flex and Jay Boogie. He was standing there quiet as a church mouse, scared as hell, not knowing what to do. Suge had invited Sam Snead there and wanted to take out his anger on him, cause he was mad that Dre left the label, which is ironic because he was actually the one who reached out to Jimmy Iovine to take Dre off the label. So there was no point of him getting mad. Because Dre did what Suge wanted him to do. But Tupac also convinced Suge that Dre stabbed Snoop in the back by not appearing in court.
I hope I said your name right.
Sam Snead and Butter were the only ones of Dre's clique who were still there. Suge was sitting at his desk all by himself, smoking a cigar while facing everybody in the room. Over 20 people were lined up in different corners of the Red Room. Everybody was standing with their backs towards the wall except Sam Snead, who was actually standing in the middle of the room, close to the circle of the Death Row emblem on the ground. So you had people standing all around Sam Snead. Suge had a projector right next to him, showing the music video to Sam Snead's song Lady Heron, which also featured Jay Flex. They all watched the video and Suge then turned to Sam to ask him some questions. "So Sam, do you see any Death Row people in this video?" He then started pointing at random people in the room, asking them, "Hey, was you in the video?" "No. Was you in the video?"
We're gonna stop it right here, chick. Goddamn back hurt now. Goddamn now. It's long ass goddamn documentary. But I will be doing part 2 tomorrow at 11 p.m. Eastern. I don't know what I forgot what time zone y'all in. Y'all can look that up on your website. I'll be out. We'll be ready at 11 p.m. Eastern tomorrow. Doing weekdays 11 p.m. Weekends be like 1 p.m. Eastern. You know what I'm saying? But I appreciate everybody coming. I appreciate everybody liking. Come subscribe. Y'all making me do this shit more and more. And let me know my posts on my page, like what y'all want to see, like who y'all want to, you know what I mean, give me ideas or something, who y'all want to see, and I'll make sure I put it out there for y'all. So we all can watch together, learn together. You know what I'm saying? I love doing 90s stuff. We just doing hip hop. We gonna do R&B too. You know what I'm saying? I gotta know the backstory between, you know, I'm nosy, man. They got me all in here. But shout out to Hip Hop Universal, who we get our information for. If y'all wanna go watch this video on your own, you go to Hip Hop Universal, or y'all can wait till tomorrow when I, you know what I'm saying, react to me. But I appreciate everybody in the chat today. For real. I'll make my dream come true. I hope y'all enjoyed. I hope I made you smile a little bit, a little laugh, giggle, you know what I'm saying? Things of that nature. Detroit and how old? Nationwide is on your side. I just for bullshit. But I appreciate everybody, man. Y'all make sure y'all come in tomorrow. I want to see the same faces, man. We react. Give me y'all intake on the whole thing. Y'all information. You know what I'm saying? I know I got an older crowd. I know y'all older. Y'all know it's facts or not facts. Just let me know. I'll see y'all tomorrow at 11 p.m. Thank y'all so much.
Please don't take me out the gal.
You got them motherfuckers.
Another one. Another one.
W Stream.
We was homeboys once, pig. Once we homeboys, we always homeboys.
See y'all tomorrow, under my post on my page, where I post my when I'm going live and stuff. Y'all make sure y'all want.
We was homeboys once, pig. Once we homeboys, we always homeboys.
I try to find document and we all.
Even if you is a fat phony.
Please don't take me out the gal.
Like and subscribe to the channel. Baby Jody.
I ain't gonna kill you. We was homeboys once, pig. Once we home.